Chapter 877. So close yet worlds apart, Black Wind Mountain and the Yunhai mountain range shared a border. They were both quite vast territories, so nobody in Shui, you didn't really know anything about the Black Wind Mountains. Nobody had ever traveled into the depths of the Black Wind Mountain, and those who had dared had never come back out alive. All that was known was the presence of the ferocious beasts. At the border between Black Wind Mountain and Yunhai was a terrifying storm. It contained a monstrous qi. Black clouds were in the sky that were filled with bestial qi. It had huge wings which could create hurricanes. Many beasts in Black Wind Mountain were raising their heads to look up at that qi. The rock wasn't a Xian-level beast, it was a Tian-level beast. There's a human being. At that moment the beasts also realized that there was a human being on the rock. That human seemed unfazed by the strong winds created by the rock. That person was Lin Feng. At that moment he was looking down at Yunhai, the place where everything started. Lin Feng frowned. How hot! There was a scorching qi emerging out of Yunhai. However, Lin Feng was 1 kilometer high in the air, so he shouldn't sense such anything. What's going on, thought Lin Feng. He frowned but relaxed again. He wanted to go to Black Wind Mountain first to see Mengqing. After that, he would come back to check out what was happening. Lin Feng couldn't recognize where Mengqing lived, but the rock could. That's why Lin Feng decided to ride his rock there. The qi of the rock was terrifying, so the small beasts of Black Wind Mountain were all crouching and crawling to avoid him. Lin Feng remained calm as he finally arrived at the Black Wind Mountain. He was wondering where that middle-aged woman was. Was Mengqing with her? Back when she took Mengqing, she told Lin Feng that only after breaking through to the Tian Qi layer could he go and look for her. There were vast grass fields, forests and beasts in Lin Feng's line of vision. Only now was he realizing how large the Black Wind Mountain was. There were fewer beasts in the depths of Black Wind Mountain, but they were more powerful than the beasts he had come across up until then. There were strong Xian-level beasts which possessed their own territories. Stronger beasts had broader territories, and it wasn't so easy to steal a territory from them. The beast tides that Lin Feng had experienced in the past as a disciple of the Yunhai sect were actually nothing. Those tides actually happened because Xian-level beasts scared the small beasts away. If the strong beasts from Black Wind Mountain had come out back then, a small sect like the Yunhai sect wouldn't have been able to compete with them. Finally, after a long time, things started feeling cold. Lin Feng looked in front of him and saw a snowy territory. Lin Feng hadn't arrived yet but could sense how cold it was. That coldness wasn't the same as other places. That kind of coldness was bestial and could chill the bones. Busy. The Tian-level rock arrived in front of that vast snowy area. This was a forbidden area in the Black Wind Mountain, a territory reserved to high-tier beasts. There were terrifying Tian-level beasts there. If Mother Master was willing, she could take Tian-level beasts into the forbidden territory, or she could expel them. In the distance, an ox glanced at the rock with its big eyes and looked surprised. There was a human riding a rock and was entering the forbidden territory. Last time, the ox had seen a terrifying energy inside the forbidden area, when it couldn't help curb the curiosity. It wanted to see Tian-level beasts. Lin Feng landed on the ground and stepped on the ice. Coldness immediately invaded his legs. There was bestial qi in the snow. It had some of Mengqing's bestial qi. Lin Feng slowly walked forwards into the middle of that white immensity, and the rock was following Lin Feng. Although they left footprints behind them, those footprints disappeared quickly because it was snowing so much. After walking for a long time, Lin Feng arrived in front of a gigantic snowy field. It seemed like an incredible beast was curled up there. If it stood up, it would be as tall and aloof as a palace or a mountain. Snow fox. Lin Feng looked at that gigantic beast. It had a white tail and appeared to be in symbiosis with the snow. She sensed Lin Feng and opened her eyes. Lin Feng's heart started beating faster. It's her. Lin Feng recognized the middle-aged woman. At that moment a small white silhouette appeared. It looked at Lin Feng with tears in the corners of its eyes. She ran towards Lin Feng as fast as she could. Mengqing. Lin Feng ran towards her using his Xiaoya agility technique. Busy. The ground shook as the gigantic snow fox turned into a middle-aged woman wearing a white robe. She looked like a queen. Lin Feng kept running towards Mengqing and Mengqing kept running towards him. However, it seemed like the distance between them wasn't changing. What's going on, thought Lin Feng. He stopped running but Mengqing didn't. Even then she wasn't getting any closer. A path appeared as the lady shook her hand. Trees lined the sides of that path. Not only were Meng Qing and Lin Feng not getting any closer to each other, but the distance between them was increasing. So close yet worlds apart, that was the feeling Lin Feng had, and it was a horrible feeling. Mother Master was separating them. You said that I could come back after breaking through to the Tianqi layer, and I did, said Lin Feng while looking at the beautiful mother. He knew the woman was way too strong for him. If she didn't agree, he wouldn't be able to see Meng Qing. I only said, after breaking through to the Tianqi layer, that you can come and look for me. That's all, said the middle-aged woman looking proud. Even though Lin Feng had broken through to the Tianqi layer, the woman didn't look proud of him or anything. If it hadn't been because of Ling Long, she would have killed him a long time ago. Xue Ling Long perfectly understood what it meant. Ling Long's blood was pure. She had the blood of a queen. What do I need to do? Asked Lin Feng. From here is a snowy path. If you want to take Ling Long with you, you must walk to the end of that path, said the middle-aged woman. She then shook her hand again, and Lin Feng lost all the sounds of world. As if he was in another world, a world made of snow. The middle-aged woman and Meng Qing were at the end of that path, and he could see them clearly. Chapter 878. Struggling through the path, Lin Feng knew that simply walking the path wasn't enough to reach the other side. The middle-aged woman had condensed abstruse energy and infused that path. How long would it take to walk that path? Lin Feng wasn't sure, but he had no choice. He had to find a solution, so he started walking slowly. Just as he guessed, after walking a while, the distance between them remained the same. Lin Feng didn't know what to do. That path seemed like its goal was to make people lose hope. Lin Feng took a few steps and felt ice penetrating into his body. I can surprisingly feel the cold, thought Lin Feng. He couldn't believe it. He had already broken through to the Tianqi layer. He could of course tell whether it was hot or cold, but that feeling of having coldness penetrate his body like daggers. That coldness was extremely potent. After stopping for a few seconds, Lin Feng started walking again, but it was useless. The coldness was also becoming more intense. The more he walked, the more the ice penetrated into his body. After so many steps, the distance between them was still the same. It seemed like Lin Feng would never reach the other end. Meng Qing was watching him with tears in her eyes. Lin Feng was already shivering and shaking because of the cold. Woo-woo. Meng Qing was crying while looking back at the middle-aged woman. However, the middle-aged woman looked indifferent about Lin Feng's suffering. Meng Qing couldn't do anything, so she looked back at Lin Feng again. He wasn't stopping. Lin Feng had to stop if he wanted to live, but couldn't because he couldn't give up Meng Qing. No matter what, he had to reach the other end. The only way he would stop is if he died. Time passed slowly. Lin Feng was now surrounded by a layer of ice. He was still breathing, but it was slowing. For each step he took, he had to take incredible efforts. That snowy path was called the so close yet so far path. No matter what Lin Feng did, he couldn't reach the other end. Lin Feng understood that, but he didn't want to give, so kept walking. He had a strange feeling though, like he could actually make it to Meng Qing. Gotcha! His legs couldn't support his body anymore because they were frozen. Lin Feng fell down, but he smiled at Meng Qing. It seemed like his strength was infinite. He stood up again and started walking. As long as he was alive, he would continue. Woo woo woo. Meng Qing kept crying and looking at the middle-aged woman, but she seemed determined to let Lin Feng die. Ling Long, do you know why you as a celestial fox are called Xue Ling Long? Asked the middle-aged woman. We are snow foxes, and there is a legend that says that Ling Long is not an animal but a deity. The earth was pregnant and gave birth to a snow fox. Then the snow fox and Ling Long had a child who was called Xue Ling Long. Xue Ling Long was a fox emperor and transmitted its blood spirit from generation to generation. However, very few descendants had a pure and unadulterated blood spirit. Many of them are just like me, they have inherited only a part of the blood spirit. Very rarely, someone with a pure and unadulterated blood spirit appears like you. Such people are kings or queens, and you, Xue Ling Long, are a queen. Your blood is pure. You are a direct offspring of this lineage. You have the same blood as those ancestors in the legends, said the middle-aged woman. It was difficult to distinguish those who had a pure blood from those who didn't, but the middle-aged woman never doubted Xue Ling Long. She was a celestial fox, a queen, a direct descendant of the ancient emperors. Her future could only be extraordinary. Linglong, you have to understand that your holy celestial qi is extremely important. Yet you surprisingly chose to be with a human. You gave your pure and celestial qi to a human being, said the middle-aged woman who sounded furious. Fury had appeared on her beautiful and noble face, just like the last time when she had seen that Lin Feng and Meng Qing were together. She wanted to kill Lin Feng but she couldn't. Linglong had offered her purity to Lin Feng. Therefore Lin Feng couldn't die. Unfortunately, she couldn't handle Linglong easily. Otherwise Lin Feng wouldn't cherish her as much as he would if he had fought for her. A celestial being, a king, should have taken Meng Qing's virginity. Wu. Meng Qing was sad, which made the middle-aged woman shake her head and sigh. Meng Qing wasn't worried about her celestial qi. She was worried about Lin Feng. I want to kill him but I can't because he took your virginity. What can I do? Asked the middle-aged woman. But he's just an ordinary human being. How could he be with a celestial snow fox? Therefore you shouldn't worry, Linglong, I won't kill him, said the middle-aged woman in a cold way. But at least Meng Qing could relax. She knew that Lin Feng was safe. However, seeing Lin Feng suffer like that was horrible. She wished she could replace Lin Feng on that snowy path. The one who wants to be the lover of a snow fox queen has to be extraordinary, said the middle-aged woman while looking at Lin Feng. The ice qi was becoming even more intense and it was enveloping Lin Feng's body. He had the feeling that his feet and legs weighed millions of tons. That ice qi was terrifying and Lin Feng couldn't stop it. He didn't know how many more steps he would be able to make. Chapter 879. Linglong's holy celestial qi. The ice was hurting Lin Feng's internal organs, and his entire body was enveloped in a layer of ice. Even though he wasn't showing it, Lin Feng knew that his body was close to failing. It was just like in the past when Meng Qing used to suffer from her ice. Lin Feng wanted to curl up on the path and sleep but he couldn't give up. He raised his head, looked at the middle-aged woman, then continued walking. Each of his steps took more of his vitality away. Meng Qing was crying and emitting sounds as if she was trying to talk to Lin Feng. Even though Lin Feng couldn't understand, he could guess that she was telling him to give up. Since I put you on that road, it means that you can reach the other end. If you give up, it will prove that you are a loser and I will never let you see Linglong again. Even if I don't kill you. The middle-aged woman's voice drifted into Lin Feng's ears. She looked a little bit more friendly only when she looked at Meng Qing. She was extremely unfriendly to Lin Feng, and even looked emotionless when she looked at him. I can reach the other side, whispered Lin Feng. He was wondering if it was true or not. He didn't know how, but the middle-aged woman was right. Giving up would mean that he was powerless and then he would never see Meng Qing ever again. Lin Feng walked slower. Not only did he need strength, but he needed determination and perseverance as well. His hands seemed frozen, he could barely move them at this point. Lin Feng condensed pure qi and condensed the strength of the Haruka in his feet. Even then his veins were all freezing and his blood was flowing slower. Lin Feng seemed like he was dying. Perseverance, his brain was still functioning, his feet were still moving. The middle-aged woman's facial expression changed for a second but quickly became normal again. That human being really loved Linglong, otherwise he wouldn't risk his life like this. His willpower was incredible. Unfortunately, Lin Feng was just an ordinary human being and was a weak cultivator of the first Tianqi layer. Linglong was a queen and possessed an aristocratic blood. She had kept Linglong in Black Wind Mountain her entire life to protect her. Besides, nobody knew about the snow fox legends in the Shuiyu region. Outside of the Shuiyu region things were different. Last time during the Shuiyu War, some people had actually recognized Shui Linglong but didn't know that she was a queen, that's all. In the continent of the Nine Clouds it was another story, they perfectly knew the story of that aristocratic family. Very far away, there was a snow palace where many people like Linglong existed. Would they be nice to her? Maybe if they learnt that Shui Linglong was there, a war would start. Therefore, Linglong deserved someone better than Lin Feng because he couldn't protect her. Unfortunately, Linglong had spoilt her virginity and given it to him. She hadn't cherished her purity and her celestial qi. Otherwise she wouldn't have turned into a beast again on that day in Shuiyu. Linglong started running towards Linglong, and the middle-aged woman shook her head and sighed. Was love real? making Ling Long risk her life for him, giving her purity to him. Lin Feng was ready to die for her. Unfortunately, he was only a human being. It would have been so nice if he was an emperor's son. She didn't understand Lin Feng and Meng Qing's love. From the first day, both had had a very deep connection and they had always stuck together. Lin Feng taught her how to ride a horse. She listened to his stories. For him, she was ready to kill. Each time she suffered from the ice qi, Lin Feng would use his sun qi to alleviate her pains. Maybe only Meng Qing and Lin Feng knew that kind of deep love. Meng Qing could do anything for Lin Feng as long as they were together. Lin Feng was the same. He even turned into a demon for her, and as a demon, he could still recognize her. Finally, Lin Feng stopped as both his legs were frozen. His energy and intent were frozen too. It seemed like his eyes were going to stay frozen shut. Xue Linglong was crying and shaking. She was trying to run towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. He didn't want to close his eyes, but everything was frozen. Determination and strength were limited. Lin Feng's eyes closed themselves, but his awareness was still there. It was as if he had died. Time stopped. But it was at this moment that his consciousness could sense a certain light in his body. Some of his qi hadn't frozen. What's that? Thought Lin Feng, stupefied. Was it his qi? He had never sensed that kind of qi. It didn't take long for Lin Feng to understand that Meng Qing had given it to him. Back on that day when he made love with Meng Qing, he felt that she had given him some of her own qi. He had even found it strange. However, after that he hadn't sensed that qi again. Lin Feng assumed that it had dispersed in his body. What kind of qi is that? Thought Lin Feng. While all the other kinds of qi in his body had frozen, this qi was still there. It proved that that qi was extraordinary. Lin Feng tried to control that qi and make it flow, but he couldn't. He tried to make his intent communicate with that qi and it seemed like it could work, but making that qi come out seemed impossible. Lin Feng wasn't giving up though. He would try to use everything he could. He tried many times and finally, he managed to summon the qi flow. Lin Feng was ecstatic. His qi, which had been frozen until then, was slowly flowing again. Ling Long didn't know what kind of qi that was. But it was actually the holy celestial qi which had been transmitted to Snow Fox monarchs. Chapter 880. Bestial skill. Lin Feng had hope again. He was trying to use his intent and awareness to make that qi move more. However, it was very difficult. That qi didn't completely obey him. No matter how he tried, it was too difficult. But Lin Feng didn't give up. Besides, the middle-aged woman told him that it was possible to reach the other end of that path. Did she mean that he could only with that qi? Did the middle-aged woman know that Meng Qing had given him that qi? Lin Feng was thinking and trying to make it move at the same time. Meng Qing appeared in his thoughts, which made him even more persistent. As long as he had hope, he couldn't give up. Finally, the qi started moving a little bit again. Some parts of his vitality started recovering. Some pure qi, some Haruka strength. But they couldn't break through the ice. The amounts were still not enough. If he couldn't combine all his energies and strengths, it was all useless. Lin Feng's vitality was progressively recovering. His pure qi and his strength of the Haruka were also moving in a more fluent way. He was trying to mix them with that strange qi in order to control it. Lin Feng was progressively taking control over it. That qi kept flowing and reaching all the corners of his body. His strength was coming back to normal. He didn't feel cold anymore. It was as if the ice had no effect on him anymore. Busy. At that moment, a dazzling light surrounded Lin Feng's body. Some qi emerged and turned into strength. Lin Feng was enveloped by a halo which contained some holy celestial qi. His long hair, his face, the lights around his body, everything about him seemed strange and perhaps a little bit bestial as well. Apart from human qi, Lin Feng's qi was also bestial. Was he turning into a beast? Lin Feng took a step forwards and started running towards Meng Qing. At that moment he was bathing in a bestial light. He used his Shaoya agility technique, but the abstruse energy of the endless path still prevented him. It seems that speed wasn't necessary to get near Meng Qing. Lin Feng looked at the middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman was observing Ling Long and noticed that Lin Feng's body was surrounded by Ling Long's holy celestial qi. It was as if Lin Feng had changed and transformed into a handsome beast. With such an incredible qi, any being looked beautiful, men, women, everyone. With such a qi, a living creature would be surrounded by a beautiful light and looked like a deity. Even human beings who possess such a qi looked beautiful, just like Lin Feng at that moment. As handsome as he was, many female animals would even be attracted by him. "Why are you still preventing me from approaching?" asked Lin Feng to the middle-aged woman. The road wasn't becoming normal, so Lin Feng couldn't get near. "That qi belongs to Shui Linglong. It is the qi of my snow fox ancestors. It can envelop anything and it contains abstruse energy." "But the path is endless, it's not a normal space," said the middle-aged woman slowly. Her voice resonated like drums in Lin Feng's brain. Ling Long slowly closed his eyes and sensed the atmosphere. The holy celestial qi was shining on the snow. Lin Feng was trying to fuse with the snow. Meng Qing stopped running and looked at Lin Feng. Then she looked at the middle-aged woman. There were no tears in her eyes anymore, she was even smiling. "Woo woo," she groaned happily. She felt touched, even moved. She looked at her mother. She knew that her mother had transmitted a bestial skill to Lin Feng. Her mother had initially never intended to make things difficult for Lin Feng. She just wanted Lin Feng to activate his bestial qi. Of course, if Lin Feng's determination hadn't sufficed, it wouldn't have worked and he would have frozen to death. Concerning the bestial skill, it was an extremely powerful skill which human beings couldn't practice, but because Lin Feng possessed bestial qi, he could use it to practice such bestial skills. That qi was going to help Lin Feng level up very quickly. Finally, the middle-aged woman penetrated Lin Feng's brain and inspected his memories. She then looked at Ling Long and sighed. Since Lin Feng had learned the skill, what else could she do to help Ling Long and Lin Feng? Lin Feng had already obtained Ling Long's qi. Besides, Ling Long was ready to die out of love for Lin Feng. Her mother could only help them and help Lin Feng become stronger. That way he could protect her daughter. Lin Feng was standing there. Everything seemed to look like an illusion. Surprisingly, everything turned into emptiness as the holy celestial qi enveloped him. Snowflakes were floating around as Lin Feng suddenly disappeared as if he had never existed. If other people had seen that, they would have been terrified. A living human had disappeared. And Lin Feng was only a Tian-level cultivator. That boy's power of understanding is not bad, thought the middle-aged woman. A short while after, Lin Feng slowly appeared again in that mysterious world. Then he disappeared again. He could do that as he wished. After a few more times, Lin Feng stopped and studied the skill again. He shook his hand and disappeared again, fusing with the void. Then he appeared again all of a sudden, but this time somewhere else, next to Meng Qing. In a flash, he could go back and forth from the endless path. Phew! Lin Feng took a deep breath and looked at the endless path. Around him was a vast and boundless snowy area. In front of him was Meng Qing. He could stretch out his hand and touch her. That snowy path was part of the void. I couldn't have walked inside no matter how much I tried, thought Lin Feng. The endless path wasn't a physical location. It was emptiness made of abstruse energies. It was another world, a world of emptiness. Such a strong abstruse energy made Lin Feng speechless. A moment before, the middle-aged woman had transmitted the bestial skill to him, and it was related to that world of emptiness. Lin Feng had to use holy celestial qi to control that space. Chapter 881. Collapsing atmosphere. Meng Qing, said Lin Feng levelingly. Shui Linglong emitted a small sound and jumped into Lin Feng's arms. Lin Feng hugged her tightly and caressed her snowy white hair. The middle-aged woman looked at her silently, then slowly turned around. She flew off into the distance as a myriad of snowflakes followed her. However, Meng Qing and Lin Feng seemingly didn't notice that she left. From the distance, a terrifying bestial qi dashed to the skies and invaded the atmosphere. Meng Qing shivered and turned her head around and gazed into the distance. There was an incredible bestial qi. Mother! Tears appeared in Meng Qing's eyes. Even though she knew that the middle-aged woman wasn't her mother, she was still sad to see her leave. Before meeting Lin Feng, she had always stayed with that woman. Now Lin Feng was there for Meng Qing, so the middle-aged woman left them alone. Lin Feng would take care of her now. Leave this place. Before Ling Long turns into a human being again, don't go to the holy city, said a nostalgic voice from the distance. The earth and sky then turned back to normal. Meng Qing remained motionless. She knew that her mother had only stayed there to protect her. Lin Feng sensed the bestial qi getting farther away, so he sighed. He felt grateful he didn't hate her at all. Everything she did was for Mengqing, so he had no reason to hate her. Mengqing, don't think too much about it. I will never leave you again, said Lin Feng while wiping off her tears. She raised her head and looked at Lin Feng while nodding. She then snuggled into his arms. Lin Feng held her tightly and slowly turned around. He gazed into the distance and looked at the mountains. The middle-aged woman told him to leave that place, so could it be that there were other treasures there? Rock, shouted Lin Feng. The rock came to him in an instant. He was surprised to see that Mother Master had agreed to let Mengqing stay with him. Lin Feng jumped onto the back of the rock and started flying. Mother Master had already left, so the rock wasn't scared anymore. He was flying carefree and in an unrestrained way. After a while flying, Lin Feng realized that Mengqing's mother changed the mountain so they couldn't leave. The rock was surprised as well. In normal circumstances they should have been out a while ago already. Land, whispered Lin Feng to the rock. The gigantic rock then flew down and Lin Feng jumped onto the snow. The middle-aged woman wanted Lin Feng to understand the bestial void skill even more, it seemed. Now he had no time to waste. A few days before, Lin Feng had fought against some powerful groups in Xueyu, and people from their countries were probably mounting a counterstrike now. Lin Feng had to get back before those countries sent stronger cultivators to Xueyu. After thinking about it, Lin Feng instantly released a strange bestial qi, and snowflakes surrounded Lin Feng. Another world appeared. Lin Feng disappeared and reappeared in and out of the new world. Lin Feng started running, that world was his. A terrifying hot qi was blowing outside of the Black Wind Mountain. Most people couldn't stand it anymore and moved away. The protectors of the Yunhai sect gathered together and discussed going back to Yangzhou City. It was way too hot, and the constant fires in the mountain range was becoming too difficult to manage. A horrible shriek spread in the air. Everybody turned around and saw a silhouette being devoured by some flames and then disappearing. Everybody's face turned deathly pale. They watched as their friend burned alive because they couldn't do anything themselves. He wasn't the first one to die in this way either. What should we do? Someone said. They looked to be at their wits' end. Let's leave. I think that our patriarch will not blame us. Instead, he will send the strong cultivators of our sect over here to figure out what's going on. Someone else said. Everybody was talking at the same time. Soon everyone nodded and left. Let's go. Let's go. The crowd gradually left the Yunhai mountain range. Boom! At that moment an earthquake started. The crowd around and saw something come out of the mountain where the Yunhai sect used to organize their exams. It seemed like the mountain had turned into a volcano. What's going on? What is that fire and why is it so powerful? Thought the crowd. Another extremely loud sound resonated as the volcano erupted again. This time a gigantic silhouette appeared. It was some kind of fire creature and it had two bestial-looking eyes. A fire beast, thought the Yunhai sect, looking desperate. It seemed like a catastrophe would befall them. Many more fire creatures were appearing as well. Ha ha ha. King Fire, we finally escaped. The small creatures kept laughing evilly. Another silhouette appeared, but this time it wasn't a fire creature. It was a human being wearing a black robe. He was laughing like a madman. Finally I came out. Li Shang has finally made it out. That silhouette released an oppressive energy at the sky. Back then, he had found out that human beings were coming into their world. He helped one and taught him how to use soul flags. Then he chased him to the exit. Using his flag, he was able to sense the outside world. Similarly to humans who were able to go to their world using a time and space distortion in the desert, they were also able to go to the world of the humans. King Fire told his army to break the distortion immediately, and it wasn't until now that they had broke through to the new world. Li Shang closed his eyes and took in a deep breath. He opened his eyes and looked at the weak human beings in the distance. He couldn't help but look a bit hopeless, those human beings were so weak. Die, said Li Shang at that moment furiously. He released a terrifying qi and attacked the Yunhai sect disciples. Explosions sounded, the crowd looked desperate. They collapsed one after the other and died. Their deaths were sudden that their eyes were still open. Who is the beast here? You or me? Said King Fire to Li Shang. Li Shang came out and a few seconds later and was already slaughtering people. "We're in a new world, of course I'm excited and want to have fun," said Li Shang while smiling evilly. He then immediately left. Chapter 882. A New World in the Ancient Palace. The painting contained a terrifying amount of fire. And at that moment there was a hole in it. In front of that painting was a beast that looked like a wolf. Its pupils were piercingly cold. Its evil chi was extremely dense, but it wasn't that strong. Fire twinkled and the wolf left the palace. It hid in a dark place and absorbed some pure chi from the earth and sky. Their chi was boiling and turning into a vortex. Fire wolves like this one were continuously escaping from the palace. They would then cross Yunhai and enter the Black Wind Mountain. It was an entirely new world for them. When Yangzhou City heard about what was happening, the government reacted immediately. They sent Wuxia troops to combat the fire wolves. Amongst the fire wolves, there were very powerful Xian-level wolves. Wherever they stepped, the ground sizzled. Villages were left flattened by their rampage. Some people were leaving their cities in Shuiyu just to avoid those beasts. Wuxia troops were looking around. Lin Hai and Yu Menghe were floating in the air and staring at the fire wolves. Those fire wolves were from that world they had teleported to before. Back in the Lovesickness Forest was a tunnel which led to that world. Had they come through the tunnel in the Lovesickness Forest? But the fire wolves appeared in the Yunhai mountain range, which meant that there was another tunnel to the other world. After the calm, the storm, whispered Yu Menghe. She looked sad. This time so many people had died. One day later some news spread. A terrifying Tian-level beast had appeared. People heard that apart from beasts, people had appeared in the Yunhai mountain range as well, and those people were fighting the wolves. Even though they weren't from Shuiyu, they were still humans after all. Although most of the new people were fighting the wolves, some were cruel and fighting other humans they were killing mercilessly. There was also a rumor that a middle-aged man wearing a dark robe had appeared. It was said that he was extremely strong and despised everyone. His passion was to kill, especially young and beautiful women. In his eyes, it almost seemed like Shuiyu's people were nothing more than toys. He enjoyed playing with humans and using his full strength to slaughter them. Apart from that, people didn't know that there was a fire wolf which possessed monstrously powerful chi. It was devouring other fire wolves to strengthen itself. The massacre lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. All the while, Shuiyu was still on fire. Then, a few Tian-level beasts appeared in the imperial palace of Yangzhou City and started attacking. All those fire wolves seemed unstoppable. At the same time, in the depths of the Black Wind Mountain, a young man with a magnificent snowy white beast appeared. Of course it was Lin Feng. Finally we made it out. There was less snow around them now because Lin Feng wasn't using Linglong's holy celestial chi anymore. However, when Lin Feng appeared high up in the sky, he realized that outside of the Black Wind Mountain was an infinite number of flames. The Black Wind Mountain seemed to be burning. Lin Feng also noticed the cruel-looking fire wolves. Fire wolves? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. He had gone to another world before, through the tunnel of the Lovesickness Forest. It was there that he had seen those fire wolves before. Yunhai Mountain Rain. Lin Feng suddenly thought about the fire he noticed before going to the Black Wind Mountain. The rock then immediately flew towards the Yunhai Mountain Range. Lin Feng noticed the Yunhai Mountain Range already looked like a sea of fire. The fire wolves and humans seemed to be giving it their all. But when they saw Lin Feng and his Tian-level rock, they practically wet themselves. Where did that extremely strong cultivator come from? Busy. A terrifying chi emerged as the rock flapped its wings and crushed all those fire wolves. Lin Feng then walked to those people. "Where are you from?" asked Lin Feng. "We are from Tianyahage," said one of them. Lin Feng became upset. They really were from Tianyahage. "If you do anything suspicious, I'll make sure you all die," said Lin Feng coldly. Those people looked scared and kept nodding. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered as he disappeared. Very quickly, Lin Feng arrived on the mountain where the exams of the Yunhai sect used to occur. The door of the ancient palace was already broken open and burning. The inside of the ancient palace contained a sea of flames. The painting itself contained some mysterious marks which were twinkling at that moment. It represented another world, and the tiny hole in it was how everyone was escaping. A painting had become a space, its own world. It wasn't the first time that Lin Feng saw such a mysterious and marvelous object. Shengong had its own world, one that needed special skills to get there. There was also the Jade Emperor's palace, although it was a smaller world. Then there was the world created by Meng Qing's mother, the Endless World. One had to understand the void bestial skill to get out of it. All of this was proving to Lin Feng that strong cultivators were not only capable of destroying things, they could also create other worlds. Chapter 883. Evil Li Shang, who created that small world? What was its meaning? Were the writings back then on the Haruka statue true? Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. The gigantic statue was still there, but now it was on fire. Lin Feng could still see the warning written in small letters on the statue. It said that no one should attack the statue, but Lin Feng attacked it anyways. Lin Feng felt a little guilty now. He had acted carelessly and Xueyu had to pay for his carelessness. The one who had written that warning knew everything. Perhaps he was the author of the painting as well? Lin Feng couldn't figure that out right now. He grabbed the painting and took out a demon seal stone. He slammed the stone into the hole. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng had to use 3 stones to seal the hole. The fire outside suddenly became much weaker now that the hole on the painting was firmly sealed. The world was slowly becoming normal again. Who would have thought that that painting contained another world? Lin Feng took the painting and the demon seal stones and left the palace. He rose up in the air and looked at the desolate fields, sighing. Let's go, said Lin Feng, now on the back of his rock. They were going to go hunt fire wolves. Very quickly, Lin Feng arrived in front of a group of fire wolves. He took out his soul flag and swallowed all the wolves in a flash. The flag twinkled with bestial lights as it ate them. What's that? Thought Lin Feng suddenly. He was surprised to see a seal on his soul flag. Lin Feng never realized it before. That soul seal, needless to say, had been left by Li Shang. Li Shang was a cultivator of the Tianqi layer, and had rushed to that world on purpose. At the same time in a city, Li Shang had confined a beautiful girl to a room. She looked like she was in pain as she was being raped by Li Shang. At that moment, Li Shang could sense something, so he looked into the distance. He noticed Lin Feng and smiled coldly. Without Lin Feng, he wouldn't have been able to find a way out. He was now completely free. He could enjoy women and other pleasures as much as he wanted. Nothing was impossible. Little boy, when I'm done playing around I'll come and find you, thought Li Shang with an evil smile on his face. He then continued raping the girl. At that moment, Lin Feng released a terrifying sword qi and annihilated all the fire wolves. Then his rock flew towards Li Shang. That place was a beautiful city in Xueyu. It was called Sky Cloud City. There were rivers, mountains, and beautiful clouds. The girls in that city were known to be beautiful. It used to be much richer and more powerful than Yangzhou City, but now the city was a bloodbath. Not such a long time before, a man wearing a black cape came to Sky Cloud City. He started killing people like insects and raping women. He truly was a psychopath. However, nobody could stop him in Sky Cloud City. Cultivators at the Tianqi layer were the strongest in Xueyu. Some people who couldn't stand being powerless tried resisting but failed and were killed instantly. For Li Shang, killing was a passion, a pleasure, a game. Boom! In that beautiful room, some qi exploded and a few shouts spread in the air. The family members of the girl who was being raped by Li Shang found them in the room and went insane. However, they died soon after. Back when Lin Feng had seen Li Shang in the other world, Li Shang was a good-looking man. However, his eyes had become particularly evil after all those years. At that moment, Li Shang was surprised. He realized that his soul flag was marked with his own seal, but it was now getting closer to him at an incredible speed. He was surprised. Back then, Lin Feng used to be a tiny cultivator. Could it be that Lin Feng discovered his soul seal? Was it only a coincidence? Li Shang frowned and guessed that it wasn't a coincidence. Lin Feng's speed was too fast. Even though he couldn't see Lin Feng yet, he could sense the soul seal, and he knew that that speed could only be maintained by a cultivator of the Tianqi layer. The little boy from back then had turned into a cultivator of the Tianqi layer. Interesting. Li Shang smiled indifferently and looked at the crowd while shouting aggressively, "From now on, nobody moves. If someone moves, I'll kill them." Everyone was shaking with fear. Two people tried to escape, but Li Shang noticed them and immediately killed them. No one else tried to make a break for it. Li Shang looked extremely satisfied when he saw the crowd. He even smiled. He then looked in the distance and said, "Someone is coming to save you. We're going to play a game which starts now. Every 10 minutes or the time needed for an incense to burn, I will kill one of you until that person arrives." The crowd was both stunned and terrified. They couldn't do anything but pray. Finally, an incense has burnt. It really does burn slowly. Li Shang smiled, shook his hand, and someone died. The person standing next to the one who was killed was also affected by the attack, and their cultivation was crippled. Li Shang looked satisfied and smiled evilly. Of course, he had crippled that person's cultivation on purpose. "Don't move. If you try, you'll die," said Li Shang when he saw that some people started looking antsy. Everybody remained motionless. Two were terrified to move. Time was passing slowly and several people were killed by Li Shang. Very quickly it seemed a dozen people had already died. The crowd looked desperate while staring at Li Shang. He loved that feeling. Everything was a game to him. "He's almost here. I can feel it," whispered Li Shang. The crowd looked at Li Shang, who was gazing into the distance. They suddenly had hope again. Was that person really able to deal with Li Shang? Boom boom. Li Shang killed two other people and laughed. He then released an incredible energy which oppressed the whole crowd. Finally, he has arrived. Li Shang's facial expression looked sharp. He couldn't wait. How strong had Li Feng become? Busy. In the distance, a strong wind appeared and a bestial qi was dashing to the skies. A beast. At that moment, Li Shang looked surprised. There was a beast? On top of that, it was a Tian-level beast. No wonder it was traveling so fast. Not to mention that bestial qi was terrifying. Li Shang frowned. That bestial qi was much more powerful than he had expected. Li Shang was actually a little scared. "Let's go." Li Shang then immediately started to leave. In a flash he disappeared. He was retreating as fast as he could. Very quickly they saw a gigantic and terrifying Tian-level beast. The rock. On the rock was a silhouette wearing white clothes. They looked handsome, natural, and unrestrained. That young man was holding a beautiful small beast in his arms. Chapter 884. Evil Methods. There was a beautiful legend in Shuiyu. Back when the king of Shuiyu, Lin Feng, was about to be married with Duan Xianyi, he discovered a conspiracy. The imperial family invited Lin Feng, his family, and his friends because they wanted to kill them all. After that, the woman whom Lin Feng loved the most used her full strength of the Tianqi layer to defend against Duan Renhuang. She defeated Duan Renhuang, but in the end, she turned into a beautiful celestial beast, Xueling Long. After watching that, Lin Feng became furious and turned into a demon. He then killed Duan Renhuang and a few others. Since their king had come back, they had heard rumors that he was able to kill Tian-level cultivators with one punch. A moment before, Li Shang had sensed how powerful Lin Feng was, and guessed that he wouldn't be able to fight, so he left. "What's going on?" asked Lin Feng when he saw all those corpses and the terrified crowd. "King Lin Feng, a slayer, came here. At the beginning, he said he would wait for you to arrive and meanwhile, kill a person each time an incense finished burning. He raped lots of women and killed many others." Lin Feng was furious. Since he visited Tianyahage, Lin Feng knew that Li Shang was disturbed and that he was a cultivator of the Tianqi layer, but he wouldn't have thought that he was so psychotic. The crowd was obviously furious and hated Li Shang. "What a bastard," said Lin Feng. He then continued flying with his rock. He was flying with incredible speed, creating strong winds all around them. The speed of Tian-level beasts was incredible. Very quickly, Lin Feng could see his enemy in the distance. Li Shang's heart was pounding. He regretted everything. What had made Lin Feng become so strong? He thought that even if Lin Feng was strong, he had just broken through to the Tianqi layer and would definitely be unable to defeat him. "Running away is useless," said Lin Feng coldly. Li Shang knew that he wasn't faster than the rock, so he stopped and turned around to face Lin Feng and his rock. Lin Feng's face was filled with murder. As expected, first Tianqi layer, thought Li Shang. Even though Lin Feng had become quite strong, he had only broken through to the first Tianqi layer. That damn rock was a bigger problem. Lin Feng, I wouldn't have thought that we would meet again. Since you left Tianya Hage, you became so much stronger. You even broke through to the Tianqi layer. Congratulations, said Li Shang while smiling, but Lin Feng ignored him. Lin Feng, there's no need to act like that. Even though I came to your world, aren't we both similar? Why fight and harm ourselves because of a bunch of nobodies? Said Li Shang when he sensed Lin Feng's terrifying energies. He was also slightly smiling. If I don't kill you today, I don't deserve to be called the king of Shuiyu, said Lin Feng. Rock, don't kill him. The rock threw himself at Li Shang and Lin Feng stayed in the air watching. Boom! Whirlwinds appeared around the rock, who quickly approached Li Shang. It tried to grab Li Shang with its claws. Li Shang shook his hands and at the same time he dodged back. Li Shang could barely breathe in front of the rock. Slash! The rock's claws cut through the air. Li Shang moved in the other direction but then heard a sound. The rock had bombarded Li Shang with his other wing. Li Shang looked deathly pale as he coughed up some blood. He shook his hand and his soul flag appeared. It seemed contained some potent death chi. Die, shouted Li Shang furiously. It seemed like many dead souls were attacking the rock. Their dead chi was extremely dense. The rock's facial expression was sharp. It released some chi which turned into a golden sword. A bestial sword of sorts. The sword was extremely sharp and capable of crushing the dead in a flash. At the same time, the rock threw itself at Li Shang again. It streaked across the sky and the soul flag seemed to be getting dimmer. Li Shang could barely resist the rock as it crashed onto him. This time it grabbed him with its claws. Li Shang gave a horrible shriek as blood splashed. The rock's claws were extremely sharp and immediately tore open his arm. If Lin Feng hadn't told it not to kill him, then it would have beheaded him right there. BZ. The rock brought Li Shang back to Lin Feng as blood kept spilling out of his arm. Lin Feng was staring at Li Shang with complete disdain. Li Shang felt a million blades cutting him to pieces. Dying outright would have been easier than suffering like that. Li Shang couldn't bear the pain anymore. He looked at Lin Feng and tried to throw himself at him. He released some chi and yelled, "You think that you're so powerful but you're just a tiny cultivator at the first Tianqi layer. You shall die." A sword appeared and Li Shang released his evil chi into the sword, feeding it. A vortex appeared and surrounded the sword. After that, Li Shang turned to Lin Feng and punched the air with his other hand in Lin Feng's direction. Boom! Lin Feng's fist also launched out, making everything around them shake. His punch was terrifying. Li Shang had broken through to the third Tianqi layer, so if Lin Feng wanted to fight him, he had to possess a similar strength. But Lin Feng's muscles were extremely strong thanks to his Haruka strength. Kaboom! An explosion sounded in the air. Not only was Lin Feng's punch extremely powerful, it also contained sword chi. Li Shang gave a horrible shriek again as his arm was completely torn to shreds. Even if he wanted to run away, he couldn't do it anymore. Now his arm was completely cut off and his blood splashed everywhere. Li Shang was propelled backwards as Lin Feng used his Xiao Yao agility technique to continue his assault. For a cultivator of the Tianqi layer, you're quite pathetic, said Lin Feng in a humiliating way. Boom boom! A gigantic fist crashed onto Li Shang's head, making his entire soul shake violently. A little bit more strength and his soul would have been completely destroyed. He then crashed onto the ground. Slash! Pain made Li Shang regain consciousness. His leg was cut off by Lin Feng's sword chi. I said it before, if I don't kill you, I don't deserve to be king, said Lin Feng as he cut off Li Shang's other leg. Kill me then, said Li Shang, who couldn't bear the pain anymore. Chapter 885. Flame Emperor Li Shang was begging Lin Feng to kill him. He was shaking violently from the pain. He had lived in a confined world for so many years. Now that he had finally found a way out, he loved that new world where he could have as much fun as he wanted. But in the end, a nightmare started so quickly. He never thought that he would die like this. He hated himself for his recklessness. Lin Feng condensed more energy in his sword while staring at Li Shang and said, "Don't you think that killing you would be too easy?" Lin Feng's voice sounded ice-cold as his sword then streaked across the sky. "Ah!" Li Shang shouted painfully, his entire body was twitching. Lin Feng then cut off his penis. Lin Feng was merciless. That man was a cruel and dirty animal. Torturing wasn't even enough. Poof! At that moment, a dazzling light appeared between Li Shang's eyes and flew towards Lin Feng with incredible speed. Slash! The light immediately penetrated into Lin Feng's head and buzzing sounds started resonating. That light was attacking Lin Feng's awareness spell, making his entire body slightly shake. Lin Feng frowned and closed his eyes. He released his awareness, his bronze bell resonated and attacked that light. Lin Feng then realized that the light was a small person. It was tiny and its chi was completely evil. If Lin Feng didn't possess a powerful awareness, his soul would have been crushed by that light. That small person continued attacking Lin Feng's awareness spells. Lin Feng released his broken souls into his awareness spells to strengthen them. They then attacked the small person, pushing them back. Slash! The small person could sense Lin Feng's awareness, so they immediately came out of Lin Feng's head and ran off into the distance. At that moment, Li Shang felt hopeless. He was dying. That small person wasn't Li Shang's awareness, and he didn't know when he had fused together with that creature. Lin Feng glanced at Li Shang but decided he needed to follow the small person. Li Shang was already dying after all. That small person attacked and had failed, now it thought it could escape? Impossible. The tiny golden person was extremely fast. Coupled with his size, it was difficult to catch up. However, Lin Feng had already oppressed him with his awareness. Lin Feng used his Xiaoyao agility technique and flew in the sky gracefully. Lin Feng gradually got closer to the small person. He released his awareness spell which emitted buzzing sounds as it bombarded the small person. His tiny body was shaking. The bell kept resonating as it then fell from the sky and surrounded the tiny creature. Boom boom boom. The bell kept assaulting the tiny golden person who was resisting. Lin Feng raised his hands and small black flames appeared. Busy. The bell opened itself and flew back into Lin Feng's head. The tiny golden creature wanted to escape, but Lin Feng was faster than him. Lin Feng ran while condensing energies. Soon a black hole appeared in his hands. "Where are you going?" asked Lin Feng while grabbing the tiny creature. He was now unable to escape. "So, initially you were the evil one. Now I really want to destroy you," Lin Feng said angrily. The tiny golden creature kept moving around but it was useless. His tiny body was slowly becoming black. "Let me off," said a voice in Lin Feng's brain, surprising him. Lin Feng stared at the tiny golden creature and shouted furiously, "What the hell are you?" Lin Feng had never seen such a creature. His evil chi was extremely dense and he had possessed Li Shang's body. "I'm an evil spirit," said a voice in Lin Feng's brain. An evil spirit? Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. Surprisingly, there were such things in the world. "Did you control Li Shang's body before? And if you had managed to attack my awareness, would you have been able to use my body as a host and control me?" asked Lin Feng. In the future, he would have to be careful when encountering such creatures. Without paying attention, it was probably easy for them to take control of a body. "I'm not strong enough yet. I cannot control cultivators of the Tianqi layer. I can only influence them in the best case." "Okay, how do creatures like you come to life?" asked Lin Feng. The creature remained silent. "Humph." Lin Feng groaned and increased the pressure in his hand, making the evil spirit give a horrible shriek. I'll talk. Many years before, a terrifying emperor chased the flame emperor Yan Di and destroyed his soul. However, after his soul broke, he didn't die. The emperor put them in a painting and sealed it, preventing some of the people inside from becoming too strong. The flame emperor Yan Di was also sealed inside. He then raised us using his consciousness. So that's what we are, evil spirits. Lin Feng was thinking about all of this and shivering. What a terrifying emperor. After fighting, he could seal people inside a painting. On top of that, the flame emperor Yan Di's soul was broken into many pieces, so the emperor had been worried about recovering his soul, so he turned it into so many small evil spirits. Why was it impossible to break the flame emperor Yan Di's soul though? Lin Feng couldn't understand such things yet. In other words, there are other creatures like you? Lin Feng was a bit worried. If any other creatures like this came out, then Shuyu would plunge into chaos. No, the flame emperor Yan Di's soul was broken into pieces. Pieces which can turn into broken souls are very rare. Those which can turn into evil spirits are even rarer. There can't be too many like me. I don't know how many there are of us, but there can't be too many. I also don't know how many have come to this world. Lin Feng felt a bit reassured. To a small country like Shuiyu, it could have been catastrophic. You don't know anything, keeping you is useless, said Lin Feng as he readied to destroy the evil spirit. Wait, said the evil spirit hastily, obviously fearing death. I will tell you an incredible secret, but only if you don't destroy me. What secret? Lin Feng was curious. Back then, maybe the Flame Emperor Yendi hadn't died. Maybe he still had a little bit of vitality and is still in this world, said the evil spirit. You can't kill me because if we encounter the Flame Emperor Yendi, only I will be able to tell you who he is. Without me, you wouldn't be able to recognize him. Besides, if you want to control people in the future, I can help you, said the evil spirit to Lin Feng, trying to convince him. Chapter 886. Controlling the evil spirit. Lin Feng remained silent. No matter if what he was saying was true or not, Lin Feng couldn't kill him. If the Flame Emperor Yendi really did exist and could destroy people's consciousness, Lin Feng would need to be vigilant. The best thing he could do was to know what kind of creature the Flame Emperor Yendi became after getting destroyed back then. Didn't you just say that you were unable to control people? Asked Lin Feng coldly, squeezing the evil spirit tighter and making him shout with pain. I cannot control cultivators of the Tianqi layer, but I can control people who are weaker than that, said the evil spirit. Weaker people? Humph, groaned Lin Feng. Alright, if we manage to destroy a Tian-level cultivator's soul, I can control their body. But as far as I'm concerned, a body by itself is useless. I prefer acting as a parasite in their body, while slowly consuming their vitality, until my strength becomes stronger than theirs. If I manage to do that, I wouldn't be an evil spirit anymore but a real human being, said the evil spirit. Lin Feng was too smart, it was impossible to cheat him. I see, thought Lin Feng. The evil spirit had slowly been consuming Li Shang's vitality, and intent to strengthen his own vitality. Tell me how I can control you, demanded Lin Feng. He was still firmly holding the evil spirit in his black fire. If he couldn't control the evil spirit, he would have no choice but to kill him. He might try to take control over Lin Feng when we was most vulnerable. The evil spirit's tiny eyes twinkled. Boom! The terrifying black fire burnt even more intensely. The evil spirit gave a horrible shriek from the pain and turned completely black. Evil spirits are made from one broken soul which becomes bigger. After absorbing different energies, it turns into a body, and then finally turns into an evil spirit. You can extract my soul, which was originally a broken soul, and take over it. Then my life will be in your hands, said the evil spirit, which made Lin Feng smile. Take your soul out. Alright, just stop attacking me, said the evil spirit. Lin Feng stopped burning his body and the tiny creature released a gray thread from its stomach which moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng firmly oppressed the creature with his godly awareness and strengthened his fire. Slash slash. The little gray thread was immediately destroyed by Lin Feng's fire, terrifying the tiny golden creature. So you want to die, said Lin Feng coldly. His black fire ignited again as he released a terrifying amount of strength. It seemed like the tiny black creature could die at any time. Give me another chance. I made a mistake, begged the tiny golden creature while shaking with fear. However, Lin Feng didn't stop and was progressively destroying him. The little creature was already completely back. It seemed like he really was going to die. I beg you, please, one last chance, begged the evil spirit. However, Lin Feng's facial expression looked ice-cold and he didn't stop attacking. Only after the evil spirit became extremely weak did he stop. He then said, let's try this again. If that evil spirit was useless, Lin Feng would have destroyed it already. Alright, said the little and weak creature. A golden light appeared as well as a tiny golden soul. After releasing it, it seemed like the tiny creature was going to die. Bzzz. A fire immediately enveloped the golden soul. The little creature couldn't bear the pain anymore. It looked almost dead as it was staring at Lin Feng's cold smile. It had managed to become an evil spirit. Dying would be such a pity. Lin Feng released his broken souls and enveloped the evil spirit and absorbed it. Lin Feng grabbed the evil spirit firmly and said menacingly, "In the future, if you try to fool me again, I will definitely kill you." Then Lin Feng put the evil spirit away. "Rock," shouted Lin Feng. The rock flew next to Lin Feng and they left. Half a day later in Luoyu City, a cultivator of the Tianqi layer appeared. He was extremely powerful and stronger than everyone else there. However, he didn't have time to act recklessly. A young man flying on a rock was hunting him. It was said that the young man was the king of Shuiyu. At the same time, 7 snow eagles had appeared and were patrolling Shuiyu. Each time fire wolves appeared, the snow eagles immediately appeared and killed them. Apart from the snow eagles, there was also Lin Feng's rock, which was extremely powerful. Lin Feng found that he could use fire wolves' souls to heal the evil spirit's soul. Even though the evil spirit was not trustworthy, if Lin Feng controlled him, it was no problem. Besides, the evil spirit was also taking advantage of Lin Feng's speed. The fire wolves progressively simmered down. Many people had lost their lives during the war against the wolves. Of course, many others had taken advantage of the war and became stronger. In Divine Waters, a gigantic Tian-level rock was flying in the sky. Lin Feng had already patrolled the country once with the snow eagles. The fire wolves had completely disappeared, but some people claimed to have seen the king of the fire wolves. But Lin Feng hadn't found him yet. Lin Feng wasn't the only one. The snow eagles had also encircled the ancient city of Divine Waters. Lin Hai and Qiu were patrolling the ancient city as well. They heard that the king of the fire wolves was spotted in the ancient city, so they had all rushed over. They needed to kill him so Shuiyu's people could relax. Concerning the humans who came to Shuiyu, they hadn't caused trouble. The king of Shuiyu had ordered his people to report any Tian-level cultivators who caused trouble as well. Even if there were Tian-level cultivators, they weren't too fearful because they heard that Lin Feng could kill them. At that moment, outside of Divine Waters, Lin Hai was riding Qiongqi. Suddenly, Qiongqi stopped and remained motionless. Grr. Qiongqi groaned as if he feared something. Lin Hai was a bit surprised, sensing a strange qi all around him. Qiongqi was an ancient beast. Not only was it strong, but its senses were very acute. Although Lin Hai didn't understand what it was worried about, it couldn't be good. At that moment, on the other side of Divine Waters, Lin Feng sensed those energies and flew towards Lin Hai. Terrifying sounds could be heard. The 7 snow eagles were extremely fast and quickly arrived in front of the Fire Wolf King. Their wings turned into sharp blades as they threw themselves at the king. Their wings were dazzling as the fire was reflecting off them. Slash! The 7 snow eagles' wings attacked the Fire Wolf King at the same time. It released fire but couldn't resist the attack this time. Its body was lacerated and flames were splashing around chaotically in the atmosphere. The Fire King turned into a fireball as it attempted to run away. But the Tian-level rock's wings turned into golden swords and an explosion sounded. Lin Feng used his Xiaoyao agility technique and pulled out a demon seal stone. As the fire dispersed, fire crystals appeared. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and a black fire appeared. He then destroyed the awareness contained in those fire crystals. A gigantic fire crystal then appeared. It was dazzling and seemed to possess a fire beast inside. It was the Fire Wolf King's heart. Finally it died, thought Lin Feng while breathing slowly. He took the heart and stashed it away. Lin Feng arrived in front of Qiongqi and glanced at him. Qiongqi lowered its head and meowed. Lin Feng looked at him for a while and then looked at his father. Dad, let's go back. All right. Lin Hai nodded and jumped onto Qiongqi. They all went back to Yangzhou City. The situation had calmed down, but people in Shuiyu clearly understood how important strength really was. They were all motivated to practice cultivation now. They wished to make their king proud and even become as strong as him. At the same time, Lin Feng ordered the Yunhai sect to go back to their former location in the Yunhai mountain range. He even appointed a new patriarch. It was rumored that Lin Feng had given the Yunhai sect lots of extremely powerful skills and techniques, including Tian-level ones. Many young people traveled Shuiyu to the Yunhai mountain range. They wanted to join the Yunhai sect. Everyone understood that Lin Feng was standing behind it. even though he wasn't the patriarch anymore. Each Lin Feng visited the Yunhai sect, it would have a great impact on the sect and its disciples. With Lin Feng, the Yunhai sect could become the strongest sect in Xueyu. However, the Yunhai sect couldn't house everyone. With that in mind, King Lin Feng also created a few new sects and gave them techniques and skills. People admired him. In the past, the imperial family of Xueyu wanted to control the entire country and held all the power. However, Lin Feng was different, everything he did was for the country. But the people from Xueyu didn't know that outside of the country, there was a great danger awaiting their king. Said Lin Feng while rising high up in the sky. Surprisingly, he was rising to the same level as them. Chapter 889. Despising Shenggong people raised their heads as Lin Feng rose up even higher in the air than them. Did that guy wanted to die? He was extremely conceited and obviously despised them. Lin Feng was belittling himself, but in reality, it was sarcasm. He was making fun of them. What an arrogant boy. Could it be that he thinks that those snow eagles are enough to protect him? People from Shenggong were angry now. Zhu Tian narrowed his eyes and raised his head. Back then, at the great competition of Xueyu, Lin Feng's personality was the same. However, back then, Lin Feng had the right to do so because he won. But now, what made him feel so confident to act that arrogantly? Leader, I'm going to sort this out, said a young man. He had broken through to the second Tianqi layer a few days before, and wanted to prove himself by capturing Lin Feng. Okay, said Zhu Tian while nodding. He just wanted to see how strong Lin Feng was. The young man jumped forwards and rose up in the air using a wind agility technique. He quickly arrived in front of Lin Feng. Get the hell down from here, shouted that young man furiously. On that young man's hand, a golden print appeared. It seemed to contain thunders and strange marks. It then assaulted Lin Feng, surrounding him by golden lights. Win, thought Lin Feng. He used the same agility technique as his opponent, and it looked like he understood the technique better than his opponent. He looked far more graceful and was faster. Slash slash. The golden was shining upon Lin Feng's body and it seemed like it would hit him each time. That young man really wanted to cripple Lin Feng. Hurry up and retreat back, shouted someone behind Zhu Tian. However, it was already too late. Lin Feng was too fast. His wind intent was already level 5. The young man's facial expression changed. He kept shouting furiously while releasing golden lights at Lin Feng's body. However, Lin Feng was unaffectedly bathing in those lights and looked like a war god. Boom! No matter how many golden lights the young man released, Lin Feng's body was like iron. A loud sounded as the young man's internal organs were crushed by Lin Feng. Lin Feng had punched him and damaged his vitality. Get lost, said Lin Feng while kicking the young man's body back at Shenggong's people. The one who had just warned the young man caught his friend's body. But when he caught it, he found that the young man was already dead. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng just glanced back at him indifferently. Then he said, in the past, when I participated to the great competition of Xueyu, I used to think that people from Shenggong were so powerful. I almost joined Shenggong, but luckily I didn't. A cultivator at the second Tianqi layer from Shenggong is just a piece of trash. He couldn't even withstand a single attack. Shenggong has an undeserved reputation. Can you find someone of the same level to fight against me, please? Lin Feng said mockingly. Shenggong's people were pulling a long face, especially some of the younger people who wanted to fight Lin Feng. They had even started walking towards him. However, Zhu Tian raised his hand and prevented them from going. Back then at the great competition of Xueyu, an incredible genius had risen and now he was even stronger. His muscles and bones were extremely powerful. He could punch a cultivator of the second Tianqi layer and easily kill him. It really was a pity not to have such a cultivator in Shenggong. At that moment, Zhu Tian was angry at Bei Ming. Back then, Bei Ming hadn't attached enough importance to Lin Feng. If they had better known his potential, they would have protected his family and friends. Maybe Lin Feng would have joined them then. Lin Feng, I came here personally. You must understand the consequences. However, I want you to remember Shengong is a nice place and give you one more chance to join Shengong. Let bygones be bygones. I will not treat you unfairly, said Zhu Tian. He really hoped that Lin Feng would join Shengong. Sooner or later, Lin Feng would become his personal assistant if he joined Shengong. If you want me to join Shengong, shouldn't you first take the treasures I found in the mysterious world? Said Lin Feng mockingly. Of course there are some powerful tools which you can't use and it would be better if Shengong used them, but you can keep some. It's nothing against you. Try not to bring about your own destruction, said Zhu Tian indifferently. What do you mean, bring about my own destruction? Do you think I'm doomed? Okay, I will give you one chance. Bring those pieces of trash from Shengong, those who have broken through to the 4th Tianqi layer or under. If one of them can defeat me, I will join Shengong. I promise you, said Lin Feng while pointing at the young men from Shengong. Everybody was furious. What an arrogant guy. Surprisingly, he called cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer pieces of trash. Cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer were already in the middle of the Tianqi layer. They were 3 layers stronger than those of the 1st Tianqi layer. Almost all of them could already condense their awareness and use it to attack people. If they used their awareness, Lin Feng would die. Didn't Lin Feng understand that? Apart from the cultivator that Lin Feng had just killed, there were 5 more cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer and below. There were 2 cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer and 3 of the 3rd Tianqi layer. The others were cultivators of the 5th Tianqi layer. In order to capture Lin Feng, they had brought some of their strongest cultivators. Many people from Shueyu were on the ground and staring at those people in the sky. None of them needed pure qi to fly in the sky, so they were all cultivators of the Tianqi layer. That was incredible. Their king was even standing higher than those people, and was facing them fearlessly. He looked like a hero. People were feeling proud and their hearts were filled with ardor and ambition, but they also felt the pressure. They were worried for Lin Feng. Those were strong cultivators from Shengong after all. The leader of a palace had even come personally. Just talking big, said the man who was carrying the body of the young man who had just died. He then looked at Zhu Tian and said, "Leader, I'll fight." That person had broken through to the 3rd Tianqi layer. All right, said Zhu Tian while nodding. How strong was Lin Feng's body, really? That person put the young man down and threw himself at Lin Feng aggressively. I will show you how ignorant you are. It seems that you don't understand cultivation levels, said the middle-aged man while surfing on a razor-blade-like wind. In a flash, many silhouettes appeared. They were all clones. The higher the cultivation level of a Tian-level cultivator was, the deeper their understanding of the earth and sky was. Their intent was usually higher and they could use the strength and the force of the earth and sky in a more efficient way. At that moment, the wind was whistling violently and turned into a vortex. All the clones became blurry. The crowd on the ground started shaking as they watched. How scary. They couldn't see clearly what was going on, but those clones looked like real people. How could you fight against such a skill? However, Lin Feng remained standing there and didn't look scared in the slightest. He didn't understand cultivation levels? Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes and observed the scene using his awareness. Chapter 890. I understand cultivation levels better than you. Lin Feng was observing the surroundings in his world of darkness. There was a gray wind blowing unceasingly, and he could see each and every single movement of the wind. He could also see some dark silhouettes flickering. However, there was one silhouette which appeared brighter than the others. That silhouette kept flickering too, but each time it flickered, many other shadows appeared around it. In Lin Feng's head it looked like a dancing buffoon. Lin Feng smiled coldly as the wind was blowing against his body aggressively. However, Lin Feng was calmly standing there in the middle of that deadly storm. His body was like a stone, motionless and unaffected by the world. Back in his dark world, the light moved a little. The silhouette jumped into the gray wind and borrowed some force from it. At the same time, a hurricane appeared in his hand. That person understood wind intent quite well. His wind was almost invisible, and yet extremely powerful. That wind was strong enough to crush trees. That cultivator saw how easy it was for Lin Feng to kill a cultivator of the 2nd Tianqi layer, and decided to act cautiously. He didn't want to underestimate Lin Feng, and wind is up like his friend. However, Lin Feng's eyes were, as before, closed, and that cultivator misunderstood this for overconfidence. Because of this storm, Lin Feng wouldn't know when his opponent attacked. Wind was a light and invisible kind of strength. Lin Feng's opponent was moving and thinking like the wind. At the same time, he released the hurricane in his hand to cripple Lin Feng's cultivation. However, as soon as the hurricane left his hand, Lin Feng moved as well and moved with similar grace. It seemed like he had hollow bones like birds did. Lin Feng left a shadow behind him as the wind crashed onto that shadow. At the same time, two hands that contained an incredible amount of wind energy seemed like they were grabbing at his throat. How is that possible? Thought that cultivator, whose heart started pounding violently. Now Lin Feng finally opened his eyes. He looked expressionless, yet one could see that he found the situation amusing. I understand cultivation levels better than you, said Lin Feng. Immediately after, fire appeared in his hand and began cooking the cultivator. Boom! Lin Feng then punched him and destroyed his burnt body, which flew towards Shengong's people. Save me, shouted that cultivator furiously. At the same time, a sound spread in the air. A black blade penetrated his heart. He turned his head around and looked at his comrade. Despair appeared in his eyes. Even if you live on, you'll be a useless piece of trash. I'll avenge you, said his comrade angrily. Then, the cultivator closed his eyes and disappeared in the fire. The one with the blade released an ice-cold energy, and at the same time, another person came out. That person held a spear which diffused ice-cold lights. They both looked extremely aggressive. I will kill him, said the one with the blade. Surprisingly, two cultivators of the Tianqi layer had been killed by Lin Feng. What a humiliation for them. Lin Feng had only broken through to the Tianqi layer. No, I will, said the one with the spear. Come together, fighting one-on-one each time is going to take too long, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. Lin Feng was happy Shengong had sent people to him. Now he could practice his cultivation. He had obtained so many treasures recently and learnt so many new skills. Learning more about these things through fighting was invaluable. The two's eyes twinkled with sharp lights. They looked like two lions in front of a sheep. Go ahead together, said Zhu Tian. He also felt humiliated. However, Lin Feng's self-confidence and arrogance made him act cautious. Even though cultivators of the third Tianqi layer were considered average cultivators in Shengong, all in all they belonged to Shengong and they couldn't afford losing too many of them. Zhu Tian had told them that it was alright, so they didn't hesitate and both jumped forwards. 2 against 1, a spear and a blade against Lin Feng. Your intent levels are too low, said Lin Feng mockingly. Then, he released his level 7 sword intent. The earth and sky were whistling as everything seemingly became a world made of swords. Lin Feng's cultivation level was lower than his opponent's, but his intent level was higher. His terrifying sword intent placed a monumental pressure on his opponents. If one could compare intent in a forest, the intent of Lin Feng's opponents represented a few trees and Lin Feng's was a vast and boundless jungle. His intent enveloped his opponents. How could they still fight like that? The two opponents pulled a long face. Those who had seen Lin Feng in the mysterious world knew how strong he was. However, they either died or were now trapped in the emperor's palace. How strong was Lin Feng? His blood sword appeared and it was twinkling with blood-red lights. Millions of swords appeared around Lin Feng and the sky was whistling. The million swords condensed and fused together with the blood sword. Its bright blood-red color was becoming more dazzling. Million sword fusion, shouted Lin Feng furiously. His sword then streaked across the sky. Roaring dragons appeared and were directed at his opponents. The swords turned into 2 beams of light and then 2 gigantic swords appeared, each capable of cutting the vault of heaven. Die! The 2 cultivators of the third Tianqi layer didn't flinch. A gigantic blade diffused a dazzling blade light. Then on the other side, there was a spear that separated the sky as well. In a flash, 1,000 spears appeared. Boom! The blade and the sword collided. The spear and the sword collided as well, and a hurricane formed from these confronting energies. Be careful! Shouted someone furiously. But again it was too late. Lin Feng had learnt the ancient Xiaoyao agility technique. The blood sword streaked across the sky. Blood appeared on the throat of the blade cultivator and splashed violently. Lin Feng's blood sword picked up that blood and absorbed it. Lin Feng didn't stop though. He then used his agility technique again and threw himself at the spear cultivator. The opponent ran backwards with his fastest speed. However, a sword light appeared as Lin Feng disappeared and turned into a sword. Some slashing sounds spread in the air. The enemy was terrified as Lin Feng suddenly appeared behind him. Chapter 891 7th Tianqi Layer 1 Sword Strike 1 Death. Lin Feng slaughtered 2 cultivators of the 3rd Tianqi layer, and his speed was astonishing. The Shengong's people looked astonished as well as humiliated. 2 more of their people had died. Even though they were only of the 3rd Tianqi layer, their level was still higher than Lin Feng's. Shengong's cultivators are crappy. With some more time, I could kill you all like worthless dogs, said Lin Feng while pointing at Shengong's people. Someday when I reach the clouds, I'll come to your territory and annihilate you. Phew, the crowd sighed, how brave. Saying that he would go and destroy Shengong was extremely audacious. Shi Jutian's expression changed drastically. For Shengong, Lin Feng had to die. Unfortunately, you will never reach the clouds. There was murder in Shi Jutian's eyes. He didn't want to recruit Lin Feng anymore. He wanted to cripple his cultivation. He wanted to see Lin Feng on the ground, unable to stand up ever again. You're not the one who can decide if I will reach the clouds or not. I killed cultivators of the 3rd Tianqi layer. You can even send cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer to fight me. You guys can all come at once, I will still kill every single one of you. Lin Feng was pointing at 2 cultivators of the 4th Tianqi layer in an arrogant way. Those cultivators of the Tianqi layer found it difficult to remain calm. Boom! Energies rolled through the sky. An old man with white eyebrows released some energies towards Lin Feng. His eyebrows resembled swords and he himself looked like a sword, wanting to kill Lin Feng. Good, if Mr. Bai gets involved, Lin Feng is doomed. Shengong's people seemed to relax. Mr. Bai was old but very talented. His level wasn't high but he understood swords very well. He had broken through to the 4th Tianqi layer and possessed level 6 sword intent. His cultivation level was higher than Lin Feng's but Lin Feng could already use level 7 sword intent. Lin Feng remained motionless in the sky. He had a cold smile in the corner of his mouth. Little boy, you're going to die now, said Mr. Bai. In the blink of an eye, sword energy appeared around Mr. Bai's fingertip shot out towards Lin Feng. As Mr. Bai was getting closer to Lin Feng, a demonic sealing strength appeared. Lin Feng smiled at the old man as a gigantic piece of stone appeared above his hand. Boom! When Mr. Bai's fingers touched the gigantic piece of stone, his bones broke and he gave a horrible shriek. Don't engage in close combat, said someone from behind him. An extremely loud sound followed as the stone ruthlessly crashed onto the old man's body. Boom! A terrifying energy rolled in the air towards Lin Feng. Another cultivator of the 4th Tianqi layer attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng stretched out his hand which was holding the gigantic piece of stone to deal with that cultivator. At the same time, he used his other hand to attack the old man. This time a subtle sound spread in the air, as if a needle had pierced through the old man's chest. However, that sound was masked by the sounds of the stone attacking the other cultivator. You are already old so I won't kill you, said Lin Feng, sending the old man flying. The stone came back into Lin Feng's hands and someone in front of him shouted, What an arrogant little boy! You dared to use precious items. Arrogant? He is 3 levels stronger than me, why wouldn't I use precious items? What should I say about a group of Shengong's people coming to attack me? You are such weak cowards. Lin Feng shouted back. Invisible hand of destruction, shouted that person furiously. With a flash, a gigantic hand appeared and flew through the air. Lin Feng used his stone as massive waves of energy rolled in the air and crashed onto that terrifying hand. Everything disappeared instantly. A demon seal stone, what a surprising treasure. Go and capture him. Shi Jutian's long sleeves fluttered in the wind. He didn't care about Shengong's honor anymore. He just wanted to capture Lin Feng. Die, said Lin Feng coldly. The 7 snow eagles released a terrifying amount of bestial qi. Lin Feng's hands moved and he released his Tian-level beasts from his animal tower. Clouds of bestial qi rolled in the air. People on the ground were shaking. What a terrifying amount bestial qi. All those beasts were Tian-level beasts. Roar! Lin Feng used his demon seal stone to push the cultivator of the 4th Xian qi layer in front of the bear. The bear roared and crushed the cultivator easily. How fierce! The Tian-level cultivator was crushed alive. West Shinggong had a dozen cultivators of the Tian qi layer, and Lin Feng had a dozen Tian-level beasts. Their battle made the ground and sky shake, the atmosphere seemed like it was breaking apart, and terrifying energies were rolling. A golden hand appeared in front of Lin Feng and contained enough strength to crush Lin Feng easily. Lin Feng stared at his opponent. The person with that golden hand was a cultivator of the 7th Tian qi layer. Even though Lin Feng had many ways to kill his opponents, he wasn't able to handle such powerful cultivators. Demonic sealing strength emerged from the demon seal stone. The seal character was flashing. Boom boom boom. The hand crashed onto the stone. Lin Feng's hand felt numb. It seemed the stone alone wasn't enough to block the attack. Lin Feng was propelled backwards. As expected, Lin Feng couldn't fight high-leveled cultivators. You should just surrender. Did you really think that because you killed a few people you were able to win? Said that cultivator. His long sleeves fluttered in the wind as he jumped forwards and attacked Lin Feng again. Humph. Lin Feng groaned and used his stone again. At the same time, a golden bell appeared in front of his eyebrows and shot towards his opponent. Godly awareness attack. The cultivator with the golden hands was quite surprised. Lin Feng's cultivation was impressive. Not only had he broken through to the 1st Tian qi layer, but he could use the godly awareness attack already. You're about to bring about your own destruction, said the golden hand cultivator. He attacked the stone again. At the same time, a godly awareness golden sword appeared. However, the golden hand cultivator looked at Lin Feng and saw that he was smiling in a bestial kind of way, so he pulled back his awareness. Almost at the same time, the golden hand cultivator turned around and saw a sword sneaking behind him. Try and dare. The golden hand cultivator released an incredible amount of qi and launched a hand attack. A golden light appeared between his eyebrows and drowned into his skin between his eyebrows. He was shaking. He wanted to kick out Lin Feng's awareness, but it was already too late. That godly awareness was extremely dangerous. The godly awareness sword was recalled, but Lin Feng was running towards him now. Lin Feng's sword suddenly crashed between his eyebrows, crushing him violently. Chapter 892. Unsheathing the demon sword. Roar. The golden hand cultivator roared violently. His facial expression looked ferocious. A terrifying godly awareness sword headed for Lin Feng, but Lin Feng used his Xiaoyao agility technique and his demon seal stone. Boom! The godly awareness and the stone collided as a terrifying golden light appeared. The godly awareness was barely visible, but at the same time, new golden lights appeared between the golden hand cultivator's eyebrows. Evil spirit, arg! The cultivator screamed when he saw the little golden spirit. His forehead was bleeding, but he really wanted to capture Lin Feng. He suddenly stopped moving in the middle of the sky. He was staring at Lin Feng with the utmost hatred as a drop of blood fell from his forehead and suddenly, he died. Lin Feng called his spirit back and glanced at the cultivator with the golden sleeves. As expected, he couldn't fight against a cultivator of the 7th qi layer. It was from the very beginning that he had used the evil spirit to control the old man. Even though he couldn't control his strength, he could at least use him to prevent the Tian-level cultivator from killing him. After that, Lin Feng made his godly awareness come back out again and killed his opponent. Lin Feng looked at his opponent's eyes and could almost see the fury in them. Lin Feng, a cultivator of the 1st Tian qi layer, had killed him with the help of his evil spirit. A whirlwind started around Shiju Tian and protected him. Cultivators of the 3rd and 4th Tian qi layers had died. Even though he wasn't happy about it, he didn't care much. However, seeing the dead bodies infuriated him. West Shinggong had sent people to capture Lin Feng, and in the end, even a cultivator of the 7th Tian qi layer couldn't suffice. What a humiliation! If other people in Shinggong knew about that, he would lose face. Even the others who had fought against the Tian-level beasts hadn't been able to resist a single attack. Those beasts were extremely powerful. They were at least level 4 Tian level beasts. Shengong had no chance. I swear, after we capture and torture you, I will kill you in a tragic way. Shi Jutian threatened Lin Feng. You're still quite confident, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. If you are not afraid of losing your consciousness and decide to turn into a demon again, I will help you kill your family and friends, all of them one after the other. You will kill them with your own hands, said Shi Jutian while smiling coldly. He had known about Lin Feng's demon sword from last time. He also knew that when Lin Feng used it, he was unable to discern friends from enemies, killing anyone in front of him. Lin Feng's pupils narrowed. Shengong's people were extremely strong, but they were shameless. In the world of strong cultivators, sometimes there were no principles. West Shengong had sent a dozen cultivators of the Tianqi layer, and thought that they would be enough to crush Lin Feng. In the end, they were humiliated. Leader, attack with us! Someone shouted furiously. At the same time, another member of Shengong fell down from the sky dead. The great rock had cut him as well. Shi Jutian's eyes were twinkling with murder. As if Lin Feng had sensed those murderous intentions, a bestial aura started twinkling around his body. Snowflakes started floating around and they contained bestial qi. Shi Jutian was surprised by the snowflakes. Lin Feng slowly raised his hands and condensed strength in them. A whirlwind of bestial pure qi flowed in his hands and white lights were twinkling around them. You finally can't hold back anymore. Lin Feng's eyes looked cold. He moved his hands and a piece of demon seal stone appeared. That was the stone Lin Feng used to seal his demon sword. Shi Jutian yelled at Lin Feng. Do you really want to use your demon sword? You don't care about killing your own people? If you don't die, you'll see, said Lin Feng. Then he shouted furiously, come out. Boom boom boom. He unsheathed his demon sword. The earth and the sky seemed to collapse as a terrifying demonic cloud appeared. Immediately, the earth and sky seemed to turn upside down. The crowd was crouching on the ground as they were oppressed by the energies in the sky. Shengong's people were all shivering. What kind of sword was that? Whatever it was terrifying. Back then, Lei Meng had told some others about Lin Feng's terrifying demon sword. However, hearing about it and facing it gave two different perspectives. They were all discovering how terrifying that sword really was. Chapter 893. Destroying Jutian in one strike. Jutian's hands were frozen cold. Lin Feng was willing to use his demon sword. Was he not turning into a demon though? Did Lin Feng not fear harming the crowd on the below? How demoniac! Jutian was speechless. That demon sword was incredibly powerful. The initial owner of the demon sword must have been at least a Zun cultivator. Even though he eventually died, his demonic power remained. You're crazy. Do you actually think I will not kill everyone on the ground anyway? Shouted Shi Jutian furiously. That demonic power was terrifying and Jutian was afraid that he couldn't fight it. Lin Feng coldly glanced at Jutian with a bestial expression in his eyes. Even his mouth resembled that of an animal. He then said, I will not give you any chances to do so. Demon seal. Suddenly, a terrifying black light appeared in Lin Feng's hands with strange markings in that light. Lin Feng closed his eyes and visualized the demonic sealing strength, so he could better control his demon power. He was finally able to use it. He rose up in the air, his head reached the black clouds. There were mysterious marking on the demon sword now which contained a terrifying power. At the same time, bright lights twinkled around Lin Feng's body as if he were condensing this strength. This strength was very subtle and barely visible. The crowd on the ground could see a huge word, seal. Lin Feng was visualizing the demon sealing strength, while preventing the demon sword intent from corroding his body. That, Shi Jutian was astonished. Lin Feng's body had turned into a gigantic word, seal. He was sealing his own body. How was that possible? How could Lin Feng use the power of the demon seal stones to this extent? It couldn't be a part of his powers. Lin Feng was in the sky surrounded by rolling black clouds and floating snowflakes. He was dominating the skies with his demon sword. Lin Feng's ice-cold eyes made Shi Jutian shiver. Was that Lin Feng's true power? No wonder that he acted so arrogantly. Even in such circumstances, do you think you can stop me? Shi Tian's didn't back down. He jumped forwards and a whirlwind followed him. However, he wasn't jumping in Lin Feng's direction. He was flying down towards the crowd on the ground. He wanted to kill Lin Feng's people to humiliate him. Lin Feng's pupils were still ice cold. He moved his demon sword around as if he were writing something. It seemed like he was moving his hand really slowly, but at the same time each strike gave birth to insane hurricanes. Each trail left by his sword in the sky seemed to contain sword intent. Shi Tian, who was flying downwards but raised his head. Cold sweat was dripping down his neck. How is that possible? Thought Shi Tian. The trails left by Lin Feng in the sky seemed to contain a special energy, the real strength of the earth and sky. Those were the mysterious markings. Even someone like Shi Tian had only heard of such mysterious markings. They were mysterious, subtle, and extremely powerful. Lin Feng had only broken through to the first Tianqi layer. Being defeated by him at his cultivation level would be an incredible tragedy. Lin Feng had probably learnt how to use those mysterious marks in the mysterious world. He couldn't have learnt them in the outside world. Shi Tian was right. Those mysterious marks came from the mysterious world. Back then there were 81 mysterious sword marks in that sword room. The mysterious marks Lin Feng was using were some of them. He had spent lots of time studying them and had focused on a particular part only. Finally, he was able to understand some of the marks related to the way of the sword. Lin Feng had prepared himself for the fight against Shen Gong. The demonic clouds were wailing. Shi Tian suddenly stopped from the surprise. Lin Feng had only broken through to the first Tianqi layer. But with the help of the demon sword, how strong could he get? Shi Tian didn't want to think about that. At that moment, the Tian-level beasts and the group of people stopped fighting. They were all staring at Lin Feng. Shouldn't a cultivator of the first Tianqi layer possessing such power violate the rules of the universe? Let's go, said Shi Tian. His energies dispersed as he started running. He wanted to escape and come back with reinforcements. Lin Feng seemingly ignored Shi Tian escaping. He continued condensing the strength of the mysterious marks. Snowflakes were still falling in the air. Despite his speed, Shi Tian was still surrounded by these snowflakes. Boom! Shi Tian barely had time to react. His head felt like it was exploding. He groaned and blood splashed out of his mouth. What kind of power was that? I told you that you wouldn't have a chance. But surprisingly, you still came. Now you will stay here forever. At that moment, a trail appeared behind Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his head and the whole sky became white. Die! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. A trail was left behind by the demon sword as a gigantic word appeared in the sky. Die. That word seemed to contain an infinite amount of sword energy. People couldn't look at it. It was so bright that they were forced to close their eyes. Shi Tian's facial expression changed drastically as he opened his mouth and moaned. The die word penetrated into his body. Shi Tian's mouth remained open. On his body, the word die appeared and carved into his skin. His body started falling apart as that die word was continuously assaulting his body. Shi Tian of West Shenggong was dead and Lin Feng, a cultivator of the first Tianqi layer, had killed him. The crowd shivered. Lin Feng had unsheathed his demon sword and killed Shi Tian with one strike. Nobody would forget that move ever. For Lin Feng's demon seal strength was quickly diminishing. Even though he had sealed his body, it would never be as strong as the demon seal stone. Because of this, he couldn't prevent the demon sword from corroding his intent forever. He put back his demon sword in the demon seal stone and the clouds dispersed. Lin Feng's eyes twinkled as the demon seal strength vanished. The snowflakes gradually disappeared as well. Even after the clouds and snow disappeared, people could still imagine that they were there. The battle between the Tian-level beasts and the remaining Shenggong people wasn't over. Lin Feng had only killed Shi Tian. There was still another leader and their Zun cultivators. Lin Feng glanced at the remaining Shenggong people. This time, nobody looked at him despisingly. He was too scary. Lin Feng had only broken through to the first Tianqi layer, but was able to kill people at the top of the Tianqi layer. The 7 snow eagles' silhouettes kept flickering. Lin Feng had ordered them to fight, so they obeyed. Actually, they didn't know what kind of power Lin Feng had. It wasn't until now that they were starting to understand how scary their master was. Lin Feng was a young master in Tianxian. In the future, he would become an authentic leader and Tianxian could only benefit. Chapter 894. Asking the evil spirit. Even after the snow and clouds dispersed, the crowd on the ground couldn't calm down. In the past, people from Shui had never seen cultivators of the Tianqi layer. Seeing such battles, the incredible powers and skills was beyond words for them. What kind of power did Lin Feng use to write the word die with his demon sword? And when Shi Ju Tian tried to escape, why couldn't he get out of the snowstorm? Ordinary Shui people couldn't understand that. Ordinary people couldn't understand, but even Shingon cultivators of the Tianqi layer couldn't. How could Lin Feng have such powers? How could he kill Shi Ju Tian in one strike? Apart from Zun cultivators, could other cultivators defeat Lin Feng? They couldn't grasp the power of the demon sword. The mysterious marks Lin Feng had used were left by the Jade Emperor, an incredibly powerful Zun cultivator. Cultivators of the Tianqi layer couldn't imagine how strong he was. The demon sword coupled with the strength of the mysterious marks was the only way to finish Shi Ju Tian. Lin Feng's bestial qi dispersed and he coldly glanced at the remaining Shanggong people. He then spat out one word, die. The beasts roared and slaughtered their enemies. Corpses fell down from the sky one after the other. Some people tried to escape, but could they escape from Tian-level beasts? Of course not, they were all doomed to die. Who would have thought that their campaign would turn into such a tragedy? Lin Feng was just a nobody, a cultivator of the first Tianqi layer. When the last cultivator of the Tianqi layer was killed by the Tian-level beasts, those beasts gathered together. It seemed like their bloodlust hadn't faded at all. They were ferocious wild beasts that loved to kill. The great rock looked majestic in the sky. The metallic sounds of its claws could still be heard. That's enough, said Lin Feng. The beasts calmed down as Lin Feng looked at them. Great rock, you've been with me a lot recently and have made great efforts. You are free now, I won't put you in the animal tower again. However, if you ever do something against me, I will put you back inside forever. The great rock transformed into a human. His eyes were twinkling. Thank you, master. The rock regarded Lin Feng in the same way as the snow eagles. He was extremely happy not to be imprisoned in the animal tower anymore. The other animals looked at the rock in a respectful way. He was free. You will all have such opportunities too, said Lin Feng to the other beasts. Lin Feng then shook his hand and the animal tower appeared again, but the beasts went into it voluntarily. They had to show the best of themselves to be free someday too. The 7 snow eagles turned back into humans and gathered around Lin Feng. Master, this time we killed Shinggong's people, but when Shinggong learns about it, stronger cultivators will come. I fear that they will send Zun cultivators. Shouldn't we head back to Tianqi? Said one snow eagle. Lin Feng was an incredible cultivator, but they were still worried about him. Lin Feng needed time to become stronger and shouldn't take large risks. It will take time before Shinggong realizes that the group isn't coming back. Let's wait a few more days and I will think about what we can do, replied Lin Feng. The snow eagle's worries were not unfounded. With the loss of West Shinggong, there was only one Shinggong district left. They would definitely send a Zun cultivator to deal with Lin Feng, and the demon sword wouldn't be enough then. Even though he had sealed it, it still had its corrosive power. The demon seal stone couldn't entirely seal its demon intent, so if he kept using it, the demon sword would turn him into a demon again. Lin Feng couldn't take that risk, but he didn't have many solutions. Nobody can talk about what happened today. It could be dangerous to us all. You've seen how dangerous Shinggong can be, so don't act carelessly, said Lin Feng loudly so that everyone could hear. Everybody nodded in agreement. Lin Feng rolled up his sleeves and left for the governmental buildings. Many people in the palace had seen the great battle and were impressed. Xiaoya. Lin Feng called Xiaoya, who was next to the pond. Brother, you're becoming so amazing, said Xiaoya with a sweet smile. Xiaoya, when I was in danger outside, I saw your grandfather. He saved me. I found out that he is incredibly strong. Following him, you must have seen incredible things, so I will show you something. Xiaoya smiled. She knew that her grandfather left a protection for Lin Feng, and for her too. If she faced dangers, it could be beneficial for her even if she couldn't use that protection herself. Lin Feng shook his hand. A small man appeared in front of him. That's an evil spirit. Xiaoya was surprised. She never imagined that Lin Feng would show her an evil spirit. It must have once been an extremely strong cultivator who couldn't die. Indeed, it's an evil spirit that can eat people's godly awareness and turn it into a body, said Lin Feng, nodding. Xiaoya nodded. There is an extremely strong technique called body capture. When a cultivator who understands godly awareness is injured physically and have practiced the body capture technique, they can steal other people's bodies. It's the same as the evil spirit's power. Body capture. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. He asked the evil spirit, if you use somebody else's body, will you be able to change? Are your powers different from the body capture technique? Of course they're not the same. We steal bodies and can immediately eradicate the other godly awareness, but the way we control bodies is not complete. Therefore, we need to consume the godly awareness slowly. The body capture technique is different because it's more powerful. You can immediately eradicate the godly awareness when you use it. And then you can slowly corrode the person's body. If evil spirits choose to invade a body using the first method, they have to change bodies all the time. If they use the second method or the body capture technique, then they don't need to change anymore. Chapter 895. Spirit Sealing Technique. Lin Feng nodded. According to the evil spirit, they corroded bodies or could steal a body using the body capture technique. Of course, the strength of the godly awareness had to be inferior to that of the attacking cultivator. When an extremely strong cultivator dies, their soul remains, so they can rise again. In order to do that, they need to find a body. Once the soul is strong enough again, they can steal a body. Is that right? Asked Lin Feng. Of course, but it is not the only scenario. If an ordinary person uses the body capture technique, once they become strong enough, they'll want a better body to increase their own strength. If I know someone I want to use the body capture technique on but I don't want to destroy their godly awareness, is that possible? Asked Lin Feng. The little person looked surprised and stared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Xiaoya. She had followed her grandfather to many places and had seen and knew a lot. Xiaoya, is there any medicine which could allow such things? Asked Lin Feng. Brother, what you're talking about has a name. It's the spirit sealing technique, replied Xiaoya. The body capture technique and the spirit sealing technique were often used together. That wasn't a secret. People who could use the body capture technique also knew about the spirit sealing technique. Indeed, there is such a technique. With it, you could do what you said the evil spirit in a trembling voice. He didn't want to upset Lin Feng. He was afraid that Lin Feng could seal him. Don't worry, I'm not interested in you, said Lin Feng as if he could read the evil spirit's thoughts. The evil spirit felt vexed because Lin Feng despised him, but at the same time he felt relieved. The body capture. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. He could really do what he said, using the body capture of the godly awareness or fusing with people's bodies using the evil spirit sealing. The spirit sealing technique is a sort of deployment technique, but practicing that kind of technique is extremely difficult. Only cultivators with an extremely powerful godly awareness can use the body capture technique. At the moment when the cultivator fuses with the body, their soul can die if they're not strong enough. You should at least be a Zun cultivator to use the body capture technique. Therefore, cultivators rarely learn the technique because Zun cultivators don't need it, said Xiaoya. Lin Feng was delighted to hear such information and kept nodding. Brother, do you want to learn the sealing technique? You won't find this technique in the Shuiyu region, said Xiaoya while shaking her head. Very few people who weren't Zun cultivators could use that technique. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. He pet Xiaoya's head. Little girl, it seems like you understand things better than I do. Hi, if you want to know anything, you can ask me. Even though I am not as strong as you, I know a lot of things, said Xiaoya while smiling. Brother, I'm off. I want to go and have fun with Xi and Yi and Yun Shi. said Xiaoya as if she knew that Lin Feng had other things to do. She then turned around and left. Silly girl. Lin Feng smiled. Lin Feng shook his hand and pulled back the evil spirit. He then left and went to the Snow Eagles. Master, said the Snow Eagles politely. Their esteem for Lin Feng was ever increasing. In the past, they respected him because he was a young leader in Tianxian, but now they admired his strength as well. Brothers, can you contact Tianqi? Lin Feng asked while opening the door and looking out at the mountains. The Snow Eagles' pupils shrunk. Their eyes twinkled as they remained silent. Lin Feng smiled when he saw their reaction and said, "It seems like I'm right. You can contact Tianqi, right? Master, we can, but only in case of real danger. We don't want you to waste that opportunity, so please think it through," said one of the Snow Eagles. Lin Feng was a leader in Tianxian, so Tianqi had to protect Lin Feng. "I need to contact Tianqi now," said Lin Feng seriously. "Master." One of the Snow Eagles wanted to say something, but Lin Feng immediately interrupted him. "Right now means immediately. It's extremely important. I must contact Tianqi right now." The 7 Snow Eagles glanced at each other and finally nodded. "All right. We'll establish a communication portal." The Snow Eagles positioned themselves in different positions like a 7-star constellation. In the middle, an ancient portal appeared. The Snow Eagles held hands and bestial chi flowed in the atmosphere. At the same time, the portal was becoming more and more distinct with mysterious marks appearing on it. Golden marks appeared. The 7 Snow Eagles used their godly awareness to condense the portal. It seemed like 7 stars were appearing and a mysterious strength radiated from the portal. "Godly awareness turn into a portal," shouted the 7 Snow Eagles. Their strength fused together and a drawing appeared. An old man appeared in that portal. It was almost as if he were next to Lin Feng. That person was the leader of Tianxian, the Snow Zune cultivator. Lin Feng, did anything happen? What a terrifying strength, thought Lin Feng. The Snow Eagle's eyes were closed and it seemed like they were making great efforts. "Teacher, I want to practice the spirit sealing technique. Do you have it?" asked Lin Feng. "You encountered a cultivator who can use body capture?" The old man was surprised. When hearing about the spirit sealing technique, he immediately thought of the body capture technique. "We could put it that way, so now I need the spirit sealing technique," said Lin Feng, nodding. "I have never practiced it." "But hold on," said the old man. He then disappeared from the portal and a snowy mountain appeared instead. Lin Feng waited, but not too long. Another old man appeared instead. His teacher left and asked the leader of Tianqi to come instead. "Mr. Tianji." "Lin Feng, don't talk," said Mr. Tianji when he saw that Lin Feng was about to talk. The 7 Snow Eagles opened the portal and it's difficult for them. They can't hold on too much longer. "I will transmit you the spirit sealing technique, pay attention." The old man opened his hands and started drawing in the air. Each stroke contained an incredible amount of strength. Those weren't mysterious marks but deployment technique strength. At the same time, his voice kept flowing into Lin Feng's brain. Lin Feng switched to study mode and listened carefully and calmly. He activated his human and earth fusion. He carefully watched the old man's movements and studied the strokes assiduously. Chapter 896. Chongqi Flame Emperor Yendi? The old man's movements were very slow but necessary for Lin Feng to study them properly. After a long time he stopped and looked at Lin Feng. "Lin Feng, study properly." "Gotcha." The portal dispersed and disappeared. The 7 Snow Eagles recalled their godly awareness and sat down cross-legged. They needed to recover after that. Lin Feng closed his eyes and studied what the old man transmitted him. He had to perfectly understand the concepts. Lin Feng seemed to disappear as he entered a deep meditative state. That's what he had always done, and that's why he has made so much progress. He didn't study particularly fast, but he was very focused, so he learned faster. After a long time, Lin Feng opened his eyes. The 7 Snow Eagles were, as before, sitting cross-legged and recovering. Opening the communication portal must have been exhausting. Lin Feng thought back about the portal. He didn't need to say much. His teacher hadn't hesitated and immediately called the leader of Tianqi, Mr. Tianji, to help him. Besides, Mr. Tianji didn't hesitate either. The old man helped him without second-guessing Lin Feng's intentions. Lin Feng was always impressed with Tianqi even though Tianshu wasn't his favorite. Every group has some outliers. Lin Feng stayed seated for a long time and waited for the 7 snow eagles to recover before leaving. In the imperial palace, Lin Hai and Yu Menghe were sitting in a pavilion, calmly talking about something. The fact that Lin Feng was so strong and powerful made his parents delighted. It seemed that if his enemies weren't at least Zun cultivators, nobody could defeat him. However, they hoped that Lin Feng wouldn't always have to fight that way. After all, the demon sword was extremely dangerous. Even Lin Hai, who was a cultivator of the Tianqi layer, was oppressed by the power of the demon sword. So there was no need to talk about Lin Feng who was using it. Lin Feng and his father had broken through to the same Tianqi layer, the first one. Lin Hai knew that he still wasn't strong enough. He didn't want Lin Feng to use the demon sword all the time. Far away from them, Qiongqi was on the ground with his eyes were closed. It seemed like it was resting. Ever since its last battle it was calm. It lied down for days and nights motionless. It was abnormal. Sometimes they went to see him, however. Qiongqi always remained silent and motionless. They didn't know how to react concerning Qiongqi's state. Mom, Dad, at that moment Lin Feng appeared. Lin Hai and Yu Menghe smiled at their son. Lin Feng, what are you doing here? We have to do something, said Lin Feng while smiling. Mom, Dad, come with me. Lin Hai and Yu Menghe glanced at each other. Lin Feng was so mysterious. Did he have a secret mission for them? They were curious, so they followed Lin Feng to a secret room. Lin Feng said, Mom, Dad, do you still remember the hole in the lovesickness forest? The one which leads to another world. Of course we remember. I used to send people to train there, replied Yu Menghe. The fire monster that came out a few days ago came out from that parallel world. The Fire Wolf King and its group of monsters came from there, said Lin Feng. Yu Menghe and Lin Hai were surprised. The hole in the lovesickness forest is just one portal. There is another one and they used that one to get out, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng took out a picture scroll out that was sealed by a demon seal stone. That world is the world of the picture scroll. It's a parallel world, said Lin Feng while pointing at the picture scroll. Yu Menghe and Lin Hai were surprised again. That picture scroll was a parallel world? That's just a picture scroll, how could it be connected to the lovesickness forest? Asked Yu Menghe. I don't understand everything clearly either. Just trust me. Keep that picture scroll hidden carefully and seal the other exit. If the situation ever worsens for the palace, then you can open the seal and bring Xian Yi and the others into the picture scroll. Lin Feng didn't explain the situation very clearly. The evil spirit had explained to Lin Feng that the world was a battlefield for 2 very powerful monarchs. After the emperor killed the flame emperor Yan Di, that parallel world had turned into a picture scroll. In the past, perhaps the lovesickness forest belonged to that world, but Lin Feng didn't know for sure at that moment. He could only guess some of the mysteries of this world. Alright, but if we go in, what about you? Asked Yu Menghe. Don't worry. It's not that easy to defeat me. Besides, I am just being careful. I also hope that we won't need to use the picture scroll, said Lin Feng while smiling. Dad, you're the stronger one. Keep the picture scroll carefully. Lin Hai nodded and put the picture scroll and a piece of demon seal stone in his ring. Lin Feng now felt reassured. Mom, Dad, don't tell anyone about that picture scroll, unless it turns out to be necessary because of a dangerous situation, said Lin Feng. If other people knew about the picture scroll, it would attract all sorts of people. They left the secret room. Lin Feng glanced around and saw Qiongqi. Lin Feng went to him, but it was almost as if Qiongqi didn't know that Lin Feng was there. Its eyes were closed and it was lying down. Get up, said Lin Feng coldly. Qiongqi heard Lin Feng and opened its eyes, but it looked uninterested. Come with me, said Lin Feng coldly and started leaving. However, Qiongqi didn't move. Lin Feng stopped and turned around. He looked angry. I told you to come with me, didn't you hear me? Qiongqi's gigantic eyes twinkled and it slowly stood up. Lin Feng brought Qiongqi to a wonderful and resplendent palace. They arrived in a beautiful room with marvelous decorations. Lin Feng looked at Qiongqi. He looked cold and surprised. Do you know why I brought you here? Asked Lin Feng coldly. Chongqi looked at Lin Feng and shook its head. In the past, Chongqi was always with me. Its soul and mind could fuse together. I controlled it entirely, said Lin Feng slowly. This for some reason surprised Chongqi. Lin Feng ignored its reaction and continued talking. However, not long ago we stopped being so close. What I am saying is that Chongqi's soul was damaged. Chongqi was staring at Lin Feng. Its eyes almost looked human. Lin Feng said coldly, Yendi surprisingly took a human form to fool me. Back in the day, it was an emperor, but it hadn't gotten used to being a feudal beast now. Maybe you were an emperor, but now you're my pet, said Lin Feng. Lights were twinkling in his hands. Chongqi couldn't move because of the black lights, so it was just staring at Lin Feng. Its expression was hideous. Roar, a human being wanted to use the spirit sealing technique on him, and now it had become a mere pet. A once great emperor had taken the form of a mere pet. The emperor had left the parallel world because he wanted to find a better body. That's why he had chosen Chongqi. After all, Chongqi was an ancient, ferocious animal which possessed incredible strength. But in the end it was just an animal. The emperor made a mistake in choosing Chongqi's body. Roaring is useless, said Lin Feng cheerfully. Bright lights appeared in his hands and his lips were moving. It seemed like he was chanting something. The spirit sealing chant. The sealing power in his hand was becoming stronger. The lights turned into a mysterious pattern. Spirit seal, shouted Lin Feng furiously. He moved both his hands towards Chongqi. It looked like it was struck by lightning and was electrocuted. Chongqi lost its ability to move. Roar! But Chongqi couldn't roar, it just shook. Lin Feng punched it again. The spirit sealing strength entered its brain and oppressed its qi. Because of the spirit sealing strength, the emperor's godly awareness would remain imprisoned in Chongqi's body forever. It was almost the same as dying, unless someday Chongqi became strong enough to expel Yendi. Until that day, Yendi was Chongqi. I hope you die. Chongqi looked furious while glaring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng shivered but still looked cold. You're just a stupid pet, said Lin Feng as he punched Chongqi with sealing strength, forcing it to crouch down again. Roar! The sealing technique had succeeded. Chongqi ran towards Lin Feng with its open mouth. Piss off, said Lin Feng as he violently kicked Chongqi, making it fly away. Lin Feng released an ice-cold qi. Yendi still thought of himself as an emperor. Lin Feng had to teach it a lesson. It ran towards Lin Feng again. It felt humiliated and it hated Lin Feng. Lin Feng punched its mouth, almost knocking out Chongqi. Lin Feng ran towards him and kicked it again. Chongqi moaned with pain and crashed onto a wall, shaking violently. Lin Feng released more demon sealing strength and punched it again. Boom boom boom. Lin Feng continued punching it violently. Its qi was weakening as it eventually crouched down. It hated Lin Feng but he couldn't contest. Emperor! Come try and kill me, said Lin Feng while punching it unceasingly. He showed no mercy. In the distance, some people heard the sounds and figured that Lin Feng was beating up Chongqi. They walked even farther away, wondering what Chongqi did to infuriate Lin Feng. Poor Chongqi, it was just a pet. Chapter 898. Convincing the Flame Emperor Yendi. After a long time, the sound stopped. Chongqi was crouching and its qi was very weak. It seemed like it had no strength left at all. He looked at Chongqi and said, Emperor? First I'll put you away. Lin Feng shook his hand and the animal tower appeared. Fortunately, he could put his animals in the snowy animal tower. Chongqi looked at the animal tower and its body turned rigid. This bloody human wanted to imprison him in that tower. Lin Feng shook his animal tower, which slowly released energies that moved towards Chongqi and surrounded its body. You'll stay in there for a few days, said Lin Feng. In a flash, the animal tower became bright and started swallowing Chongqi. It didn't want to go. It was an emperor, not an animal. But the animal tower was an incredible treasure. If it was sucked in, it would definitely become an animal. Chongqi started struggling, but its qi was too weak. Lin Feng had tortured it so it didn't have strength to struggle anymore. Lights enveloped its body was swallowed by the tower. The tower became small again and Lin Feng put it away. The tower was an incredible treasure, capable of containing Tian-level beasts. Later Lin Feng released Chongqi. Roared Chongqi roared loudly. Boom! Lin Feng punched it and crushed it onto the ground. Chongqi stood up again and stared at Lin Feng coldly. He wanted Lin Feng to die. Don't look at me like that. You will stay with me for a long time, maybe forever, said Lin Feng while smiling. I will definitely kill you someday, said Chongqi. It would kill Lin Feng somehow. Well, let's wait and see. Right now you're not strong enough for that, said Lin Feng indifferently. Yendi Chongqi is an ancient, ferocious wild beast and you chose to live in its body. But it's my pet. I should kill you but I won't because you once were an emperor. Basically, I gave you my pet's body. You're not suffering that much so you should be grateful. Boom! Chongqi spat out flames. That damn human being was telling it to be grateful. How sly was Lin Feng? I now consider you an emperor. Let's forget that you're stuck in an animal's body, said Lin Feng. He counterattacked with his own fire attack which extinguished Chongqi's flames instantly. Lin Feng's qi was too powerful. Chongqi remained cold with Lin Feng. Don't look at me that way. Don't worry, if you cooperate I will treat you as an emperor. We can grow strong together, and I won't put you in the animal tower again, said Lin Feng in a gentle way. He then added, since we'll be together all the time, let's be friends. Emperor, teach me Tian-level skills first. If I become stronger, I will be able to help you even more. I could help you become a strong emperor again. You're dreaming, said Chongqi coldly. How shameless. Lin Feng wanted it to teach him skills. How could he be so shameless? It seems like he really hates me, thought Lin Feng. Even though the emperor was in Chongqi's body, he had been an emperor. At this time he only had the memories of an emperor though. Let's progress together. Imagine if someday we were both so strong, we would be invincible, said Lin Feng gently. Chongqi didn't say anything, it just stared at Lin Feng. Did Lin Feng want it to become stronger while controlling it still? Impossible. Lin Feng saw that Chongqi wasn't easing any, so he said, come on, you don't need to teach me skills. But I'm sure that you used to have incredibly powerful ones and that you used to understand the mysterious marks extremely well. I have powerful enemies and they could come anytime to get their revenge. You must have solutions to defend us, said Lin Feng. Chongqi looked surprised. His purpose was to protect himself from Shen Gong. If the emperor didn't help, it would be a pity. Of course I have solutions, mysterious marks are no mystery to me. But I don't want to help you, said Chongqi coldly. It hated Lin Feng. Shut the hell up, shouted Lin Feng furiously, which scared Chongqi. Its body suddenly became rigid. Lin Feng released a terrifying qi which enveloped its body. I gave you face and regarded you as an emperor. Don't make me regret that now. In the past, you used to despise even some of the strongest cultivators in the world. How can you be so ungrateful? Sure, I sealed your spirit to keep you by my side. But if you don't mind, I'd like to make you happy. If you keep acting hostile, I will have no choice but to kill you. I'm merciful enough, I think. However, I think killing you would be a pity. I wish you will become a great emperor again, shouted Lin Feng furiously. Lin Feng's voice penetrated into the emperor's brain deeply. He was still staring at Lin Feng and hated him, but he had to admit that Lin Feng was right. Lin Feng considered him as an emperor, but he had sealed his spirit to keep him by his side. Lin Feng let Yendi think for a while and then said, all right, don't worry. You're an emperor. If you stay with me, you won't waste your powers. We will grow strong together. Of course, I can prevent you from escaping, so it's in your best interest to help me. If I am strong, you're strong too. Yendi remained silent for a long time before saying, how strong are your enemies? A Zun cultivator, maybe even a high-level Zun cultivator, said Lin Feng. It seemed like Yendi understood Lin Feng. If Lin Feng died, he would die too. Even though I know about mysterious marks and deployment techniques strength, I can't use them with my current strength. If you want to fight against Zun-level cultivators, I need powerful abstruse crystals to defend you. Abstruse crystals? Lin Feng nodded and said, all right, let me think. Chapter 899. Entering a strange world. The vast desert seemed endless. Lin Feng was standing in the desert, observing his surroundings as he released the emperor's palace. It looked majestic and contained incredible imperial qi. Lin Feng was in the parallel world which he had sealed because he couldn't take the risk of someone seeing palace in the outside world. Lin Feng disappeared from the desert and jumped into the palace. Many people were waiting for Lin Feng in there. Lin Feng! Lin Feng! They were all furious. So many Tian level and Xian level cultivators staring down Lin Feng. Boom boom boom. A terrifying qi appeared. "You want to die," shouted Lin Feng coldly. His voice resonated like thunder. Visibly, silhouettes were flickering. They surrounded Lin Feng and someone said, "Lin Feng, you dare come here after what you did to us? If you don't let us out, we'll kill you." Lei Mang. Lin Feng looked at him. He remembered that person was a cultivator from North Shandong. "You know Shi Ju Tian?" asked Lin Feng while smiling coldly. Lei Mang looked confused. Of course he knew Ju Tian. He was the leader of West Shandong. "Shi Ju Tian came with a group of people from West Shandong to capture me, so I killed them all," said Lin Feng. Lei Mang looked astonished. He didn't believe Lin Feng and said, "Humph, impossible. You already broke through to the Tianqi layer, but you couldn't possibly have killed the leader of West Shandong." "I killed him in one sword strike," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly and releasing some demon sealing strength. "I control this palace and everything in here. The fact that I'm not killing you doesn't mean that I can't. I am keeping you in here because you can still be useful," said Lin Feng while smiling. He was domineering like an emperor. When the crowd dispersed when they sensed Lin Feng's terrifying demon energy, allowing him to pass. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered. Using his Xiaoyao agility technique, he instantly disappeared from their field of vision. "We have to follow him," shouted someone. Then everybody ran in Lin Feng's direction. They couldn't stay in that place forever. Lin Feng's demon energy was indeed extremely powerful. Even Lei Mang had witnessed it back when Lin Feng was still a Xian-level cultivator. Now he had broken through to the Tianqi layer. If he unsheathed his demon sword again, the consequences would probably be even more terrifying. Very quickly, Lin Feng arrived in a room with countless abstruse crystals all containing an incredible power. "Lin Feng, let us go," someone shouted behind Lin Feng. Lin Feng ignored them and released his demon sealing strength. Boom! Lin Feng unsheathed his demon sword and demon qi rolled in waves in the atmosphere. Everybody was stopped in their tracks. What a terrifying sword! How could Lin Feng have such a powerful sword? Chapter 900. Poor Emperor Chongqi was using its claws to carve something into the ground. Even though it wasn't using any strength, Lin Feng felt delighted. It seemed like those carvings contained something mystical. They looked like mysterious marks but didn't contain any strength yet. Chongqi kept moving and carving. From time to time it looked at Lin Feng in a cold way and said confidently, "Back in the day, I could carve those marks with an incredible strength in them. If I recovered my full strength, I'd crush Zun cultivators without batting an eye. Now you, a little piece of trash, a nobody, makes me carve these marks one by one. It's for your safety. If we manage to secure the palace, even if a Zun cultivator comes, we'll be able to kill him in one strike," said Lin Feng while smiling. Yendi was cooperating, so Lin Feng had to give him face. In the past, Yendi's temper must have been really bad. He was proud. Of course, different circumstances require different reactions. If Yendi recovered his initial cultivation level, he'd be insanely dangerous again. "Don't worry. When I finish protecting the palace, a trivial and feudal Zun cultivator will never be able to get in. Instead they will be killed instantly," said Chongqi. At that moment he looked solemn. He wasn't acting aggressively with Lin Feng. Lin Feng laughed and observed Chongqi's movements carefully, but he couldn't understand anything. Those mysterious marks contained the absolute strength of the earth and the sky, an explosive strength. Chongqi hadn't put the abstruse crystals in the marks yet. Lin Feng was delighted. Protecting the whole palace would put him at ease in the future. He had never seen so many mysterious marks at once. How powerful must this protection be? It only took Yandi a few hours to carve marks into the entire palace. Qiongqi stood up and waved, almost like a human being. Lin Feng was surprised. "You finished that quickly?" said Lin Feng in a febrile voice. "Quickly? Back in the day I could do that in the blink of an eye. It took me so much effort and time that I'm actually quite upset," said Qiongqi while stretching its claws. "Give me the abstruse crystals, I need to put them in the marks." Lin Feng unwillingly handed him over his ring. Qiongqi released bestial qi and in a flash, the marks started shining brightly. His bestial qi started flowing through the marks, making the entire palace shine. Qiongqi took out an abstruse crystal and put its energy in the marks, and the lights instantly disappeared as if nothing had happened. "That's fine too," Lin Feng rolled his eyes. Abstruse crystals contained an incredible amount of energy, abstruse strength. The lights in the marks kept appearing and disappearing. Then the marks disappeared completely as if they never existed in the first place. Lin Feng inspected them with his godly awareness but couldn't see anything either. No need to try. "I carved the marks in a way that even Zun cultivators wouldn't be able to see them," said Qiongqi. "You finished so quickly," said Lin Feng again, smiling heartily. "Bullshit. You're making fun of me, but I'm telling you, if a Zun cultivator comes, he'll die instantly." "I wouldn't dare make fun of you," said Lin Feng while laughing. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and pet Qiongqi's head. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" said Qiongqi angrily. "Give me back the ring with the crystals," said Lin Feng. Qiongqi looked furious and said, "You bastard." "Give it to me at once," said Lin Feng. Qiongqi wasn't happy. "You need to relax, my friend," said Lin Feng gently and then giggled. "The marks I carved can only kill Zun cultivators. If cultivators of the Tianqi layer come, you'll have to be here to fend them off yourself," said Qiongqi furiously. And he then threw the ring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was speechless. It could only kill Zun cultivators? How did it make sense that they could kill Zun cultivators but not Tian level ones? Qiongqi started leaving, but Lin Feng chased him, laughed and said in a gentle way, "Yandi, you're a great emperor. If Tian level cultivators come, I bet you could easily defeat them." "Piss off," said Qiongqi proudly. "Yandi, if Tian level cultivators come here and threaten you, wouldn't that insulting to your title? You'd certainly have to kill them, right?" Yandi, Lin Feng's voice spread far away into the distance. He was a bit annoyed, but Qiongqi ignored him. "Yandi, if people came here to get their revenge, I hope that you will take care of them. If you make a mistake, bastard," shouted Qiongqi furiously. Its voice spread far away. How shameless, that bastard was threatening him again. Lin Feng was lying on a stone, looking at Qiongqi with a big smile on his face. It seemed like he was busy doing something. A great emperor. If a Zun cultivator came, he'd certainly died. Yandi was scary. Maybe Yandi could create a nice environment practicing cultivation, then all of Shui would benefit. But Yandi's temper was too much. It was difficult to get him to do anything without him threatening Lin Feng. He wanted to learn a few skills from him, but that seemed impossible. He would definitely find a way to learn things from him in the future. Poor Qiongqi, he was busy carving marks and creating deployment skills, and Lin Feng was just lying down without a care in the world. After a short while, Qiongqi glanced at Lin Feng. "Is it all right?" asked Lin Feng while smiling. "Yes." Qiongqi nodded. "That's..." Lin Feng looked delighted and pet Qiongqi's head, making him grind his teeth. He gave back the ring once more to Lin Feng and said, "I don't give a damn about your abstruse crystals. To me they're just normal stones." "Of course. You were a great emperor and you've seen incredible treasures," said Lin Feng while laughing. "You've worked hard, you should have a rest now." "Indeed," said Qiongqi and then disappeared. Very quickly, Qiongqi disappeared to another place, opened its mouth and spat out a few abstruse crystals. The poor emperor, surprisingly, had taken a few abstruse crystals. Chapter 901. Courting Death Kacha. Qiongqi put an abstruse crystal in its mouth and nibbled on it. Seemed like it was suffering. In the distance, Lin Feng was sitting. He made his awareness go out of his body and saw everything Qiongqi was doing. Is that possible? Surprisingly, Qiongqi was eating pure abstruse crystals. Lin Feng smiled wryly and shook his head. Whatever Lin Feng thought, Qiongqi used to be an emperor. His current condition was tragic. Even though Lin Feng knew that Qiongqi had stolen abstruse crystals, but he didn't try and prevent him from doing so. Lin Feng breathed in deeply and started studying the marks Qiongqi made as well as his deployment skills. At the same time, people in Shengong were recognizing Shi Tian's disappearance, so they sent some people to find him. They had heard that all the strong cultivators they dispatched had probably died in Shuiyu. The Firmament Empire was situated between Micheng City and Shuiyu in the Shuiyu region. At that moment, in a huge palace of the Firmament Empire, someone was sitting on a throne. However, that person wasn't an official of the Firmament Empire. The actual leader of the Firmament Empire was sitting below them and looked scared. Someone arrived at the gate of the palace. The one sitting on the throne said, "Come in." The one waiting outside walked into the palace and bowed in front of the leader in a solemn and respectful way. "We have some news from Shuiyu. The group from Shengong didn't manage to capture Lin Feng." That person was surprised. His eyes twinkled and he released powerful qi. The group Shengong had dispatched, led by Shi Tian, wasn't enough to capture Lin Feng? Really? It is said that they were all killed in Shuiyu. They all died. The strong cultivator was astonished. Even though Shi Tian wasn't the strongest cultivator of Shengong, he was extremely strong. How could he have failed to capture a cultivator of the first Tianqi layer? Did Tianqi send people to help? I don't know of anyone from Tianqi being in Yangzhou City. Some Tian-level beasts seem to have helped Lin Feng, said that person. The news had surprised that person as well. They all didn't understand how Lin Feng could have killed all those people in Yangzhou City. The monarch remained silent. He rolled up his long sleeves and said coldly, "Zun cultivators from Shengong will probably go and avenge Shi Tian and the others. If that's the case, it won't be easy anymore. We need to go to Shuiyu as soon as possible. We can't allow Lin Feng's treasures to fall into anyone else's hands than Jade Heaven." Indeed, said that person, again in a solemn and respectful way. Shengong thought that nobody knew that they had sent people to Shuiyu. They thought that they were carrying out top-secret operations. In fact, Jade Heaven controlled everything. Only they knew what the treasures from the mysterious world were. And only they knew how to use their ancestors' treasures. Initially, they had thought that Shi Tian would succeed and then they would have killed him and captured Lin Feng themselves. However, Shi Tian had disappeared. After a short while, a group of people left the palace of the Firmament Empire. Those people all had a mysterious and unfathomable qi. However, after that group of people left, some new people appeared outside of the palace. They looked back at those who were leaving. Those people were wearing dragon robes and looked incredibly powerful. They must all be strong cultivators from the East Sea Dragon Palace. Jade Heaven was spying on Shengong, while the East Sea Dragon Palace secretly knew the relations between Jade Heaven and the Emperor's tomb in the mysterious world. Therefore, they knew that Jade Heaven would never give up on Lin Feng. So the East Sea Dragon Palace spied on Jade Heaven instead. Everybody's goal was the same: capturing Lin Feng, or more precisely, stealing his treasures. In fact, nobody really knew what Lin Feng had obtained. He had something for sure, but they could only guess what it was. People who really knew had disappeared or died. As far as Lin Feng was concerned, he had no idea that so many strong cultivators were after him, but he understood that he had offended many people. It was because of this that he asked Yan Di for help and had asked him to protect the whole palace. The next day, in a beautiful place inside the palace, Lin Feng was sitting on a chair with Xue Linglong crouching gently on his shoulder. Xian Yi was there too. She was painting. From time to time, she would look over at Lin Feng without stopping what she was doing. "Sister, you paint so well," said Xiaoya with admiration. Xue Linglong jumped off Lin Feng's shoulder and looked at the drawing too. She looked inspired by its beauty. It was a portrait of a young man. He was sitting and looked both calm and serene. The landscape around him was astonishingly beautiful too. There was a very cute little white animal perched on his shoulder. Its fur was snowy white. Xue Linglong jumped onto Xian Ye's shoulder and put her paws on Xian Ye's face. Xinyi smiled in a gentle way, looked at Shui Linglong and said, Mengqing's sister, you will always be the most beautiful one. Shui Linglong rubbed her furry head against Xinyi. It was just adorable. Lin Feng smiled and stood up. That painting was so beautiful. He couldn't help but smile in a sweet and gentle way. Lin Feng, get the hell out here. At that moment, someone shouted furiously from outside. That voice contained an incredible strength, so everybody heard what they said very clearly. Lin Feng was startled as he raised his head and looked at the horizon. Finally they came, thought Lin Feng. He had waited for a long time for someone to kill him. Xinyi Mengqing, don't come out with me, just stay here. Said Lin Feng, still smiling. Xinyi nodded and Lin Feng left in the direction whence the voice had come. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.